Wordt gesponsord door Compaq.
Alkoholfrei.
Okay, I'm doing it now. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, Tom's mic check. Yeah, this all sounds great. I'm on channel 6 and can hear myself.
Grande-Bretagne, deuxième drapeau présenté avec là encore 4 pilotes. David Coulthard d'abord sur la Mercedes, qui s'élancera tout à l'heure en première ligne de la grille de départ. Johnny Lambert également sur la gloire. Eddie Irvine, son équipier, et puis le tout jeune et toujours Jason Button de la Williams. And the next flag that you'll see is that of Brazil, with 3 drivers on the grid. And Rubens Barrichello, of course, driving for Ferrari. And then we also have Pedro Diniz driving for Sauber. And Ricardo Zonta driving for BAR. A nationality, of course, which has produced for us many world champions, Nelson Piquet, Ayrton Senna, Emerson Fittipaldi, who have all combined to make Brazil the second most successful country in the history of the World Championship when it comes to World Championship titles. Le drapeau brésilien maintenant présenté sur cette ring, avec 3 pilotes présents ce week-end, bien entendu Rubens Barrichello, le brésilien de la Scuderia Ferrari, Pedro Diniz, le pilote sur la place, Ricardo Zonta, le pilote de la barre Honda. The fourth flag that you'll see is that of Finland. Whether they won a Grand Prix in Finland, but they have those 2 world champions, we can have in the first game for that.
Michael and David at the head of the grid for the French Grand Prix.
Second place in the grid isn't any good to me. It's pole position that you need. You need those few meters closer to the first corner.
In the end, you have to count together, and it's 1/10. It means it's very close, and whoever gets it right will win the race.
It's race day at rural Manicourt in central France. The forecasters promised us storms and high winds. At the moment, we are set fair for the French Grand Prix. Hello there, welcome to the ITV studio. Looks beautiful around us at the moment, doesn't it? 27 degrees the air temperature, the track a sizzling 38 degrees, but things do change very quickly in these parts. On a big day for French sport, absolutely delighted to welcome Olivier Panis alongside Tony Jardine. Now, Olivier, first 3 years of our coverage, we saw you racing, not this year though. Just explain what you've been doing this year.
Yeah, it's quite, for me it's very important here because now I work for McLaren for the third driver. It's quite, I know the decision is not really easy, but I'm really happy to work for McLaren Mercedes from test driver. For me, it's a good opportunity to drive the best car, then I work with the best team, and I work also with the two best drivers. I'm really, really happy. I know sometimes it's quite difficult when I don't make the race, and particularly here, but I'm sure for next year it's quite going well, seriously.
Okay, well here you are testing around here, and in testing last week I saw you finished third quickest. David Coulthard keeping an eye on you there, ahead of somebody called Michael Schumacher. That's not too bad, is it?
Yeah, no, it's quite very good, seriously. I'm very happy. We make very, very good job last test to prepare this Grand Prix with David and Mika. We have very good relationship. And yeah, I'm very quick here. I know very well this circuit, but seriously. But no, really, I'm very, very happy this job this year, seriously.
Excellent. Tony, let's just take a look at the qualifying session, shall we? This fella might have beaten Michael Schumacher in testing last week, but when it came to qualifying, Schumacher on pole again.
2 stars, David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher. An incredible performance from Schumacher. And we talked about the cricket bat theory yesterday. This is what he does to his teammates. So Irvine said it last year. It's like being hit over the head by a cricket bat every weekend when you're racing against this guy, the same team. Barrichello had been on provisional pole. 25 minutes after the start of the session, out goes Michael Schumacher, a near perfect lap. And absolutely crunched Rubens Barrichello by 0.6 of a second. Amazing. And David Coulthard was to come back from that a little later on, but great performance from the Red Baron there.
We thought David Coulthard could have got pole here, but he had miserable luck and he actually had to go round in the spare, in Mika Häkkinen's spare.
He had to take to Mika's spare. Now, if this had happened, let's say, 5, 6 races ago, or even last year. He could have dropped back 2 rows, 3 rows, or whatever, but this is a different David Coulthard, a steely David Coulthard. And as you say, he had 2 runs in Mika Häkkinen's spare car. There was a fuel pump failure in his car. He goes out in his car, he ran deep, he had a little spin down at Adelaide, but he's running out of time now. He's against the clock, he knows he must get in a good practice effort, but he's already put it on the front row with the T car, which is an amazing performance. Now when he goes out in his 4th run, he gets to within 1/10 of a second, just there past the checkered flag, to confirm the front row alongside Michael Schumacher. I think that's an absolutely sensational effort. He had very little track time. Olivier knows how bad that can be.
That's the first time that David has ever been on the front row here in France. But how about Mika Häkkinen? I mean, for so long we've regarded him as Senna-like almost in qualifying, always putting it on pole, but not recently.
I think there is a great attitude difference between the 2 drivers, and Mika Häkkinen says he's a little bit more relaxed this year. He said maybe that's not such a good thing. This time last year he said I was feeling very tense indeed. He's dropped off a little bit, but he's saying that he was still not happy with the car, and Ron Dennis said afterwards that he couldn't get the right setup with the car. I don't know
what do you feel about the world champion Mika Häkkinen? Why has his game dropped recently?
Seriously, I'm very surprised because I worked with him last test. He's the quickest last test. Mika is very, very motivated, seriously. I know he's still quiet, but he's really motivated. I don't know, for many reasons, he's not the name is not very lucky, but there's some little problem disturb him from this moment, but I'm sure he stays very motivated, seriously.
You don't think he's lost his appetite for Grand Prix racing at all?
No, I think so for him he's very big appetite, and he's ready to the fighting with David and Michael, I'm sure, seriously.
Right, okay, well if you can make yourself heard above the jet going by outside.
Well, his team is one of the French Mirage.
The French Mirage 2000, isn't it?
I'm sorry.
So noisy, these French.
Yeah.
So noisy. All right, Tony, take us through the grid.
Yeah, well, Michael Schumacher there with his 3rd consecutive pole position, 27, his record now. David Coulthard, he doesn't need to stall today, no mistakes from him. Barrichello just picked Häkkinen 3,000ths of a second, a great job from him. Ralph back in the frame there, very pleased. Eddie Irvine says that Jaguar very, very focused this weekend. Villeneuve benefiting from revised aerodynamics. Frentzen and Trulli missing their slots, but Button in the top 10, and he needs a good result today. He's back on track. Herbert problems with the balance. Salo very good in the closing minutes of practice as the temperature dropped. Della Rosa stayed in the top 10. Fisichella very bad, no grip whatsoever, down in 14th. Deniz, Heidfeld, who's been criticised by Alain Prost. Wurz, then Alesi, who had to be cajoled to get back into the car. He thought it was rubbish, he didn't want to drive it. Zonta had an engine problem early on. Verstappen said there was so much wrong with his car, he didn't know what to change. Genet and Mazzacani.
Thank you, Tony. That's the fella making all the noise. 2000 Mirage, the French Air Force, but absolutely spectacular display we have had from him throughout the weekend. Well, they had a real upside-down grid here last year. Rubens Barrichello put the Stewart on pole for the first time after a saturated qualifying session in the race itself. The heavens opened just about a third of the way through, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen triumphed in the Jordan.
Yes! Good start by Barrichello. David Coulthard goes up into 3rd place, so already he has made a position. Look at that rain cloud. Look at that rain cloud on the left.
Oh, it's a bit late, David, but he's made it.
And David Coulthard looks as though he's out of the race.
What has Coulthard got to do? Oh, and Alesi braking as late as he did.
Oh.
And they've both gone wide. Häkkinen and Alesi braking absolutely on the limit. Look at the rain. They'll be in this lap for sure for wet tyres.
Just look at what it's like now. You're looking at the Alesi.
He's spun. Alesi's spun.
Off goes Sean Alesi. Right up behind Rubens Barrichello.
Oh, he's going to spin. He caught the white line on the inside.
Through goes Schumacher.
You can see in the pit lane they're getting another steering wheel ready for what must be Michael Schumacher's pit stop. Oh, look, that's the problem for Frentzen. He can't get the thing to change down. Look, he's stuck in a higher gear.
This is going to change the race. Mika Häkkinen making his last pit stop. He's on lap 66. He was 15 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello, and here's Frentzen getting in out of the pits in front of Häkkinen.
Because Barrichello's in the pits too, so Frentzen now leads the race.
And John and Heinz-Harald Frentzen magnificent.
Great day for Heinz Harald there, wasn't it? But you had a pretty good weekend. You were third on the grid. I remember you ran fourth for quite a while, but you finished 8th here last year, wasn't it?
Yes, I'm finished 8th because we plan for the two-stop strategy, and we start with, and it's not really good idea for the good result. But seriously, it's a really good weekend for us last year. Third on the grid, and okay, we don't mark the point, but we stay very competitive during the weekend. Seriously.
It's dry at the moment, Olivier, but just tell us, what is this place like in the wet?
Yeah, this place is quite good because the level of the grip, the track is very good, and the wet condition also is. I know the wet condition is not easy, but seriously, it's good circuit in the wet condition because the flow, the water flow is quite not too big, and no, it's really good. Seriously, it's good circuit and the wet condition. All the time it's not easy for the vision situation, but seriously, it's quite very good.
Yeah, I understand the forecast is it's going to stay dry for the race, and I would think the drivers are going to be very happy about that. But just on a personal thing from your point of view, I mean, you won in Monaco, one of the great races. You see yourself there doing the business around a Grand Prix circuit. You must want to get back in as a driver.
For next time.
For next year.
For next year, I'm sure. Seriously, I like my job this year. It's so good. Seriously, again. But I'm a racing driver, and I would like to come back next year. We prepare this with Keke Roberts management. We prepare this for next year, but I'm seriously, I'm very optimistic.
Where are you going? Come on, tell us.
There's no one out there really. Don't worry, it's just us three.
Yeah, it's difficult to tell about this seriously for this moment, and I have big respect for McLaren Mercedes because when you're given this opportunity, it's quite very good. I wait for this. Sorry.
We wait too. We wait too.
Thank you.
Right, let me just remind you how things stand then, going into the 9th race of the season. 5 wins for Michael Schumacher, 22 points clear. It's now David Coulthard. You know, McLaren haven't won in France since Alain Prost triumphed back in 1989. Hakkinen third in 98, second last year. Barrichello will be starting just ahead of Ralf Schumacher. Fisichella, though, with plenty to do from 14th on the grid. And Ferrari very confident of celebrating the first major Italian success of the day. Michael Schumacher's won here 4 times. They're the most successful constructor at this Grand Prix by some distance as well. Keep an eye, though, on that scrap for 3rd place involving Benetton, Williams and Jordan. Well, Alain Prost and the home team nowhere to be seen because, sadly for them, the very experienced Jean Alesi and the German rookie Nick Heidfeld have failed to score a single point, starting from 14th and 15th on the grid. The situation unlikely to improve today. Here's James Allen talking to Alain Prost.
You were always a very tough, hard guy when you were a racing driver. You had to be. You were at the front, you were racing against Senna. Being a team owner, you obviously have to be very tough as well. Are there different disciplines, though, that you have to kind of take on board now in your current role?
Yeah, I think it's very different. I don't know how I can describe that, but when you're a racing driver, you are fighting against individuals. You're fighting against teams, but you also have the choice to change team almost after year. You decide where to go, and but the fighting against individuals is really the big difference. When you're a team owner, you're really fighting against a lot of things. I mean, almost never individuals.
I saw in the French papers you were talking about you feel a lack of support, which obviously when you're a driver you need the support around you. You're obviously feeling that right now as a team owner from your partners. What exactly do you mean by a lack of support?
There's a huge support from the fans, huge support from some friends, but obviously it's not good to be in France with the French being 100% French team, engine and chassis. It's becoming too difficult, too political, and it makes the things even more difficult than it should be. So that's what I mean by lack of support.
Now, you always used to say that British teams have that discipline. McLaren, Williams, you drove for. You always preferred to race for a British team. Do you need to anglicise your team in order to be successful?
No, I think you need. I don't think it's the way to go. We have English people, and we are very pleased with English people, and we can bring maybe more in the future. But that would not be the good to say that we need to 200 and 300 English people in France, because also maybe that does not work. You know, the culture and the mentality is a little bit different. We need to have more discipline, and we need to work more into the details.
Obviously, we've seen the big change this year in Formula One has been BMW, Jaguar. Yep. Now Honda have got 2 works teams with the Jordan team as well. It's clear you've got to have the big manufacturer to make the big push. If you don't get it, will you just get out of this?
I have to ask the question myself. Say, why do I am here? Obviously, that's a question for sure I should ask. If it's only for, let's say, 1 year, 2 years, struggling a little bit more and then get the good thing, okay, why not? If I know that this is no way, then I should ask the question myself, yeah, obviously. But at the moment, it's not the question.
Olivier, he looks a very worried man, a man under pressure there, Alain Prost. Why do you feel your old team, first Ligier and then Prost, hasn't done at all well this season?
Yeah, it's difficult for me because now it's little far away, but seriously, I'm very disappointed for this team because I pass really good memory in this team. Really bad also, seriously. But I like this team. It's very good team, but it's very young, seriously. And my personal point of view is very important to improve all the time the same people and to improve all here, the car also. But I think so the team, it don't have some experience to try the new car all here, seriously, because it's quite very young. And after that, the political problem with Peugeot, I don't know exactly why, I don't understand very well. But for me, Peugeot make a good job also. It's difficult to tell about this, seriously.
Tony, a quick sum from you, why Prost aren't delivering?
Well, they need a vision, they need the long-term plan which Alain is working on. But it's really, there is just something missing. Also, he has to make more of the transition from the driver to the team management, team owner. He hasn't made that transition and fully unlocked the door yet.
Okay, well, that Prost and the rest facing 72 laps of the 2.6-mile Manicourt circuit. Super smooth, very narrow as well. Here's Martin Brundle to talk you around with a fella who's put his Jaguar on the 3rd row of the grid.
Let's join Irvine in the Jaguar for one of his qualifying laps. Calmly through the last corner, you've cut the timing being now and bring the car over to the right-hand side for the short pit straight. There's a wall, be careful on the right. Now sweep through Grand de Curb at 170 miles an hour. Still accelerating into Estoril. Come down 3 gears. Feel the grip through the front tyres. As soon as you know you can turn, get back on the throttle and now take as straight a line as you can through Gulf, down the back straight up to 190 miles an hour. Look for the marker boards on the left. At 110 metres he brakes and it goes eerily quiet. A bit of tyre rubber up there on the TV screen, but Irvine no problems, accelerating hard out of Adelaide hairpin up towards Nürburgring chicane. 175 miles an hour. Now watch him correct the car through there. Tremendous direction change into the 180-degree corner. Stay inside. The front tyres are sliding away from the apex. No problem for maximum throttle through this little right-hander. You're on your way to 175 miles an hour and the Imola chicane, but it's blind. You'll never be doing less than 130 through here. He clips the curb as normal, heading into Chateau d'Eau. But he's locked the rear tyres. He runs wide, he collects the car up and manages to get it back in on the curb. Heading downhill now, building up to 160 miles an hour into the last chicane. Just 75 on the way through. Accelerate to 85 and immediately back down to 45. It's very slow and clumsy. And there he is over the line. He's got to improve that Chateau d'Eau approach.
Thank you, Martin. Now, this really is a massive sporting weekend for La France. Cycling's Tour de France has just started. We are here, with 25 minutes to go to the start of the Grand Prix. And this evening, the French footballers, the world champions, of course, take on Italy in the final of Euro 2000. Already at the De Kuip Stadium in Rotterdam.
Jean Alesi, you had engine problems yesterday in qualifying. You've done an installation lap now. Do you think it'll happen again?
I hope not. You know, yesterday we had a different engine. Today is the engine we are using since the first race, so normally everything is fine.
What can you do from back here on the grid?
Sorry.
What do you think you can do from back here on the grid?
You know, it's very important to finish the race. In our level at the moment, we are looking for reliability. If I can score points, really it's a miracle for me.
Did you manage a race distance in testing last week?
No, not yet, no, never.
Good luck, Jean.
Thank you very much.
Otherwise they have to start from the pit lane. So we're pretty much ready. Still another 50 minutes, however, of course, to go before we actually begin the start procedure. During that time, we also have the French national anthem, a new version of it, I'm told, sung by a young singer.
And Terry Venables from 6 o'clock, and Ron Atkinson with commentator Clive Tilsley for the final of Euro 2000 at 7. And you are very sure that La France will triumph tonight?
Yeah, I think so.
You look it as well.
Thank you.
Well, now then, the communications industry races on, although judging by our little experience there, we've still got a bit of catching up to do, never mind about that. But down on that pit wall, we've noticed rival teams that no longer shout in each other's ears when they want to make a point. It's got a lot more sophisticated than that these days, as Louise Goodman reports.
The flow of information has been speeded up in the pit lane this year with the introduction of a new interactive communication system.
The email system that allows every team to speak and to send information between us, and also to speak directly with the race control and with the technical information system. So basically, if I need to speak with Charlie White, this is our race director, it's quite easy to do it because I go into the system, race director. This is quite easy. I mean, then you send the message and you wait for his reply.
We are generally using it if you're coming up to slower cars. And asking to be a blue flag, to say, can you blue flag this car? We think we'll be approaching it in 5 or 6 seconds or 2 laps time. We may also be given information like, you know, our driver is saying, I think there's oil at turn 2. And we're saying to Charlie, you know, Jensen or Ralph has said there's oil at turn 2, please can you check? And he will come back and say, we've checked with the marshals, we don't think so, or yes there is, and we've now put an oil flag out.
You know that up to maybe last year, we used to walk to see Charlie if we had some doubts or just making some query regarding the sport regulation. Now it's easy because you just don't move, just press the button and he will answer to you straight away. So you save time, you save miles to walk, and that's good. I mean, and also we can use the system also to speak between teams instead of going there. If we need to clarify something or we need to discuss something, we just use the email system. That's good.
We've then got a second part, which is basically a live system running during practice, where we can look at sector times, corner section times or straight sector times at any point on the circuit, usually 22, 23 segments, which we select at any time during the practice session.
We have the track, as you can see here, and we can check between different loops of the timing, which is our timing, and which is the timing of other cars that we can select.
And the third sort of breakdown of the system have actually given us results at the end of those sessions of a very quick service by which we can look at our cars and everybody else's cars' results from that session.
Before this weekend, the results were distributed on paper, 11,000 sheets of paper. But now all that data is available at the touch of a button.
Now we have our own technical whiz kids. We're launching a mobile messaging service on the ITV F1 website. You can keep in touch with everything that happens on a Grand Prix weekend through your mobile phone. And full details on the website www.itv-f1.com. OK, coming to you now, loud and clear. It's Kevin Piper with the latest news, including the very latest on the future of the British Grand Prix.
And when the fifth one goes out, Silverstone will be go!
And possibly gone, of course. The threat to Silverstone as the home of the British Grand Prix remains. A move to Brands Hatch looming in 2002. But the leading British teams have joined the fight to keep the race at Silverstone, claiming Brands just isn't suitable.
And at Silverstone we've got almost unlimited testing, etc., and it's very safe. And at Brands then there'll be severe restrictions in the amount of times you could test there and so forth. So, you know, we've stated that, so simple as that.
Brands Hatch was a great racetrack, and I should say that one of the best Grand Prix I ever watched was Mansell versus Piquet in '86. But it is a little obsolete in size, I think. We need much longer straights for overtaking, etc.
Meanwhile, the provisional calendar for 2001 sees the British Grand Prix penciled in for the middle of May. Will the Colombian Juan Pablo Montoya be a Williams driver by then? Very possibly, if he's allowed to leave America. If he's not, it could be very good news for Britain's Jenson Button.
Oh, hopefully I'll be here with Williams. I mean, this year's been a good year so far. Only halfway through the year, it's going to be very difficult to make a decision, I think, for Frank. But hopefully I'll be here. We've got a good relationship, and I think we can have a good year next year. I mean, I'll learn all the circuits this year and come out fresh next year and get some good results, hopefully.
Let's have a final word with Olivier Panis. Let's talk about the French Grand Prix. Do you think that McLaren are going to win here at last?
Yeah, I think so, yeah, seriously, because last test we make a very, very strong job. We make a long, very, very long run to see what's happening, the wear, the tires and the degradation, everything. And the car is really, really consistent. David last test also is so strong. He worked very strong for this Grand Prix. Mika this morning after the warm-up is so happy. Now, yeah, it's quicker time, and now we see this afternoon what's happened. But I think so. It's very big fighting again with Michael.
There will be very big fighting with Michael. I don't think it's going to rain, which is good news.
Yeah, I think so for us. Yes, but also now the McLaren team worked very, very strong in the wet condition. The car is quite very, very drivable and it's quick in the wet. After that, it's very important to maybe a little more lucky to compare with Canada Grand Prix.
Sure. Olivier, we hope to see you back in a Grand Prix car very soon indeed. Well, racing in a Grand Prix car. Yeah, thanks very much indeed for joining us. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to France tonight as well. Okay, let's go to Ireland's Eddie Irvine, shall we?
Eddie, great qualifying performance. Is this a better example of where the car can and should be?
This is where the car can be whenever there's more downforce needed for the circuit. You know, low downforce, we're struggling. High downforce, we're obviously not. I think this weekend we've learned some things that will help us for future races. Whether we can fix it now, you know, quick or not, I don't know, but I think we've learned something. So we need to see what happens after this.
Immediately, of course, you want to translate that into a good start. After your problems in Canada, what about the clutch? Is that likely to give you a problem?
No idea.
Have a good one.
This is as good as mine.
And here we are, one or two facts and figures that will enhance your enjoyment of this afternoon's race. Michael Schumacher needing just one more win to equal Senna's career total of 41. Prost, the all-time record holder, with 51. Brilliant record here, Michael Schumacher. He's won the French Grand Prix 4 times out of the last 6 years. McLaren with that miserable record stretching back over the last 10 years. French Grand Prix pole position drivers, though, have only won 3 of the last 10 races here. Manicourt here is normally a two-stopper. Don't forget that Heinz Harold Frentzen won on the back of an inspired one-stop strategy in the rain last year. Your Grand Prix commentator, James Allen, has this.
OK, folks, so you're the McLaren team. If you don't get a 1-2 finish today, Michael Schumacher is virtually over the hill and far away. So how are you going to stop him? Well, strategy is notoriously hard to predict here at Magny-Cours. In fact, it's probably the most difficult of the whole season. It's a 2-stop race, but how long the 3 stints should be, that's very hard to tell. The track is very hard on the tyres, and you have to monitor that throughout the course of the whole race. The race we won and lost at the end of the second stint, going into the second pit stops, so watch out for that. One ace that Michael Schumacher has up his sleeve, he's the only driver who's kept 3 new sets of tyres.
Thank you, James. Well, those Benetton and Alexander Wurz, I mean, he's had a tough season, and he's got a lot to do, Tony.
They've both got a lot to do. Fisichella's down in 14th place. Flavio Briatore, the boss of the Benetton team, said, I thought it'd be bad, but I didn't think our performance would be that bad at this circuit. And there's Villeneuve. He's benefited from the new aerodynamics, going a lot better in 7th place on the grid. They're a bit happier. They're not happy, of course, because Jordan have got the same engines as them for next year.
And so say all of us. What's the rarest item, do you think, in Formula One? Here is my suggestion. It is a sick note from Murray. He hasn't missed a racing assignment since the black and white days when Clem Attlee was Prime Minister back in 1949. Young Tony Jardine developing his sweet tooth thanks to the end of post-war rationing. Prince Charles, aged 8 months, was already very much in the public eye. Wind the clock forward now to last weekend's Festival of Speed at Goodwood. Murray in the leathers on his dad's Rudge. Since then, he dislocated his hip. The physio who told him he couldn't travel here must be a very forceful personality, and Murray assures us he will be back in Austria in a couple of weeks' time, and we will be talking to him after the race. Ralf Schumacher. It's going to be James Allen, though, alongside Martin Brundle for the French Grand Prix.
Good to see Bernie Ecclestone having a word with Alain Prost on the grid there, and there's Gerhard Berger, all sorts of personalities on the grid as ever at this French Grand Prix, and great to see great big full grandstands everywhere. Fantastic. What a huge crowd here today. I hope you're not getting too hot in that sun. Remember, as the Aussies would say, to keep taking the liquids but not necessarily amber fluids.
Ron Dennis, on the eve of this race, you re-signed David Coulthard for 2001. What was the reasoning behind doing it so early in the season?
Well, he's doing a great job. He's improved dramatically from last year, more focused, and there's just no logic to changing our driver lineup. They're both exceptionally good, and we think that in demonstrating commitment to both of them, that they'll even get a bit more out of themselves for the balance of the season, so it was the right thing to do.
From a management point of view, is it difficult to keep them motivated when they've been together for so long?
No. They're, you know, drivers are very insular in their objectives. They're very focused individuals. Of course, they worry about the performance of their teammate because it's a direct reflection on their own ability, but it's not a demotivator to have a quick teammate. It's a motivating force because, of course, you can't complain about the performance of the car or engine if your teammate's quicker. So having two quick drivers normally tends to raise the game of the whole team.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Very good luck today.
Thank you.
Well, certainly Friday was this hot.
It is the French Grand Prix at sold-out Manicourt, live only on ITV. It's an absolutely crucial one, this. Another Michael Schumacher victory would be a massive blow to David Coulthard's championship hopes. Let's join Martin Brundle and say a very good afternoon to James Allen.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone in the UK and around the world joining us here for this French Grand Prix. And I'd like to say a special hello to Murray, sitting at home in the New Forest. The place is very quiet without you, Murray. So what kind of race have we got in store? Well, McLaren have to take the fight to Ferrari today and get a 1-2 finish. Only done it twice so far this year. On one occasion it was Häkkinen the winner in Spain, and once it was David Coulthard in Great Britain. Michael Schumacher, though, has won 5 times already this year, and here in Manicourt he's now chasing his 5th French Grand Prix victory in 6 years. Only Alain Prost has been more successful around here. If he wins, he'll equal Ayrton Senna's record of 41 Grand Prix victories, the second most successful driver of all time. It'll be a race of strategy, of course, but also of team tactics. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see McLaren and Ferrari sending 2 drivers out on different strategies this afternoon to cover their bases. Martin, what are you looking for this afternoon, strategy-wise?
Well, 3 stops theoretically is the fastest way around here because of the tyre degradation, but that means at some point you're going to have to overtake the 2 stoppers to make best use of your extra speed and lighter fuel load, and that is virtually impossible if you're up against the sharp end of the grid cars, the Ferraris and McLarens and the Jordans to a certain extent. It's just not that easy to overtake them, to make good use of that strategy. So I'm really thinking they'll stop twice through the afternoon, make it 3 stints. You'd have to assume between about 22 and lap 25. But this is a tough racetrack. It's very strange tarmac. It's been down since 1992. It is billiard table smooth, an amazing surface, but it just gives up so much grip as the temperature rises, and it's up at 38 degrees already.
So let's take a look at the starting grid then. Michael Schumacher, his 3rd consecutive pole position, looking very strong for Ferrari. David Coulthard starting alongside him, and into that first corner it's going to be very interesting. Wouldn't be at all surprised to see Coulthard get the drop on him. He's traditionally been a better starter than Michael Schumacher. Looking at row 2 there, Barrichello and Häkkinen again down in 4th place, Martin, and somehow that qualifying pace of Häkkinen just seems to have evaporated. It's 5 races now since he's been on pole position.
Yes, he's lost the edge, hasn't he, somewhere? He just can't hook that final fling up to get the car up onto the front row. It's Coulthard's that started doing that now. Häkkinen had the fastest car in the warm-up this morning, but he somehow got to clear Barrichello into that very, very short run to the first left-hander.
You saw the 2 Jaguars well up there. Johnny Herbert in 11th place, and well, his teammate Eddie Irvine is in 6th place. A terrific effort by Irvine. We should also mention Ralf Schumacher in 5th place, the fastest of the 2 Williams. He was genuinely surprised by that lap, and genuinely surprised to be so far up the grid. Another man well up the grid is Jacques Villeneuve in the British American Racing Honda in 7th place, and of course Jenson Button in 10th. Now, we were looking at this grid earlier, Martin, saying there's not a lot of people behind Button on this grid who shouldn't be there, and that's not a great thing to be able to say.
No, Jenson, I think, has done a reasonable job, as you're just looking at the tail end of the grid there on your TV. Jenson's had a reasonable weekend to be in the top 10, but that Williams BMW is a fast car, and Ralph's proved that up there in 5th, a full 3/4 of a second faster than Jenson. And if he wants to keep that drive and keep out Montoya and co, if Montoya becomes available, then he's got to be pushing even harder than that.
That saga seems to have been going on for such a long time, though. The Montoya will he, won't he, is Jenson in, is Jenson out saga. Why does it take so long?
Well, because it's complicated. It's never a simple issue, and I think Frank is in a difficult but enviable position in a way, that he's got 3 young chargers to choose from, and he's got to perm 2 of them. You're on board there with Barrichello's overhead camera. He snatched 3rd position on the grid in the dying moments of qualifying, and then Häkkinen came back at him a few seconds down the track and missed out by just 0.003 of a second. So Häkkinen stayed 4th, Barrichello 3rd, and Coulthard had nothing but trouble. The car blowing up, oil tank bursting. He was in Häkkinen's spare car from time to time, and he got within 1/10 of Michael, but couldn't quite make it happen. There you see Michael Schumacher and Barrichello, and I'd imagine everybody will be on absolutely brand spanking new tyres. But of all of those people you saw as they took you through the grid, there's only 2 of them down there, James, that have ever won this race. That's Michael Schumacher and Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Very big plume of smoke from the back of Schumacher, laying some big rubber trails there on the spot where he'll need the maximum traction off the start. And here we go through the Grand Courbe and down to Estoril. on the parade lap.
Yes, but they like to get some rubber down. It's their one chance off of their grid slot where they're going to return to at the end of this formation lap, and this counts as one lap of the Grand Prix. So that's their one and only chance to clean up their grid slot and lay a little bit of rubber down.
So we'll remind you the track temperature today, 39 degrees, pretty hot. Certainly around the temperature it was yesterday for qualifying. The air temperature, 27 degrees. It's been very hot, very close and very humid throughout the weekend. And we hear there's rain forecast for later on, but we believe it will be after the end of the race. We're going to keep an eye on the rain clouds for you, because obviously when it starts to rain, this racetrack particularly, you get a very, very thrilling climax to a race. We've seen it many times before, and well, who knows today? It could well rain later on.
Yes, just after qualifying finish yesterday, we had a cloudburst virtually, and I was woken up at 4 o'clock this morning. It was raining so hard on the windows of the hotel. So when it rains, as James said, it absolutely tips down.
This Magny-Cours track, been the home of the French Grand Prix since 1991, just over 2.5 miles long. There's only 5 principal corners here, of which 2 are hairpins and 2 very fast chicanes. Not a track really, Martin, which challenges the drivers very much, but a difficult track for the teams to read and for the drivers to read tactically and strategically.
The problem here is that there's a very, very long corner in Estoril. Turn 3 is the number they give it, and it really does punish the tyres. The long corners, you get a huge heat build-up as the cars accelerate up to 160 miles an hour on the exit of that long corner.
Lovely shot as Schumacher brings the pack up close together. Doesn't want to sit on the grid any longer than he has to. We saw he threw away the World Championship in 1998 because of that, just getting overheated. And as the field streams through now and Schumacher makes his way onto the grid, Martin, give us the view from a driver. What's it like now you're making your way onto the grid?
Well, this is tense time. You're in the zone, the critical zone here, where you must not make a mistake. You know, if you stall the engine, you're going to be at the back of the grid. You're looking in your mirror, you're thinking they're taking an enormous amount of time to file in line behind me. Your temperatures are rising. You've got to stay very, very calm. Your seatbelts seem a little bit too tight. Your right boot seems a bit too loose. You're moving your visor around, and the light is on. Stay calm, put it in first gear, put it about 12,000 revs, and just steer at those lights. Control the wheel, spin your away, see who's doing what around you. Are you on the attack or are you on the defence?
Schumacher leads, Häkkinen, Coulthard and Barrichello are side by side as they go through Grand Cours and down to Estoril the third, and Barrichello gets into second place. Coulthard third, Häkkinen having a go at Coulthard as they go out of Estoril corner. Villeneuve is extremely well up as well, and look at the 2 Jordans. Eddie Irvine's a loser there from the looks of things, but Michael Schumacher has the clear advantage as they head down to the hairpin for the first time.
Yes, and Coulthard having a look up the inside of Barrichello. That was definitely not in his game plan, and it looks extremely busy in the midfield. They're virtually stationary on the inside of Adelaide hairpin, but a dream start for Ferrari.
And a dream start for Villeneuve, and a dream start for Hightower Frentzen, also in the Jordan. He's well up, and he's even passed Ralf Schumacher in the Williams. So Villeneuve going well, Frentzen going well. Eddie Irvine a bit of a loser there as Schumacher starts to put some clear air between himself and the pursuing pack. Barrichello second, Coulthard third, Häkkinen fourth, Villeneuve fifth.
There'll be a big grin on that square jaw of Michael Schumacher when he looks in his mirrors to see a scarlet Ferrari that's the next car along the racetrack. That is absolutely perfect for him. And now Coulthard's got to follow that Ferrari, and the problem here is you pick up so much understeer, so much of the front end sliding. Villeneuve, they're locking up into the chicane, and Coulthard very, very close to Barrichello, but not close enough to have a look. So he needs to make a move very quickly. Coulthard has to get past that Ferrari somehow, but he can't stay close enough through this next section, turn 3, the Estoril corner.
Absolutely critical time of a motor race off the start line from a stationary start with tyres which are cooling down. How quick can you do that lap from a stationary start? How big a gap can you build up in the opening lap, 2 laps? Michael Schumacher, an absolute master at it. Mika Häkkinen in recent years has been too, but right now he's languishing in 4th place as Coulthard comes very close up onto Rubens Barrichello into the hairpin.
I remember in this race last year, albeit in the rain, Barrichello was leading for much of the race, but he was extremely cautious under braking for Adelaide hairpin, and it does seem if Coulthard can get anywhere near the gearbox of that Ferrari, he should be able to brake a little bit later.
Schumacher leads, Barrichello second, Coulthard third, then it's Mika Häkkinen in 4th place. Villeneuve is 5th, Frentzen 6th, Ralf Schumacher down to 7th place, Jarno Trulli holds station where his grid position at 8th. Mika Salo, a terrific start for him up in 9th place. Irvine has gone from 6th down to 10th. Jenson Button's dropped a place down to 11th. Johnny Herbert's dropped a place down to 12th. Then it's De La Rosa, Heidfeld and Lacey going well in 15th. Fisichella, a bit of a loser at the start as well, in 16th place.
Yes, I see on the computer car 16 has missed the chicane at turn 12. That's near the end of the lap. So he obviously lived for another day, but let's have a look and see who that was. It's down as Pedro Diniz, so not a major player in this race at the moment, as Michael Schumacher builds a 1.8-second lead over his teammate Barrichello. Coulthard a further 6/10 down the road.
Michael Schumacher's first lap then a 1:20.117, his first flying lap. Compare that with the warm-up this morning, the fastest, a 1:19.329, and this car completely full of fuel. Well, it's carrying a 2-stop fuel load, we believe, at the moment, and well, that's around about 50-60 kilos of fuel. Michael Schumacher, so that's about 60 kilos more than he would have carried in qualifying yesterday. A terrific pace off the first lap.
Yeah, that's a hot pace, James. The low 1:20 so early on, but actually, because of the tyre degradation, what are we going to see here? This looks like Frentzen, amazingly, getting up the inside there of, or actually, no, it's Trulli. He's coming back past again. Ralf Schumacher having a re-go at him coming out of that last corner. So let's see how that... Ralf Schumacher is now actually down in 8th, so he didn't make it on the way into that first corner. Trulli did get past. We didn't see the end of that move, finally.
Yes, a very bold move into Lycée by Jarno Trulli. Not traditionally a place where you make overtaking manoeuvres unless you're... It's the home of the desperate, really, isn't it, Martin, that corner?
Normally, but it was a very clean pass from what I saw of it. We actually only saw a replay there. I'd like to see that again, hopefully, if the French director will play that back in. But... Trulli really quite brave there, but it still seems, despite what the computer says, it still seems as if Trulli is still now back behind Ralf Schumacher. Yes, he is. He's back down in 8th place, so Ralf Schumacher has repassed him.
Yes, unseen by us, Ralf Schumacher in the Williams has got past Jarno Trulli in the Jordan, and Trulli trailing his teammate Frentzen up in 6th place.
And look at this, Michael Schumacher, full 7/10 of a second faster than Barrichello on that last lap. And that's a major problem for Coulthard. He can see his main championship rival just waltzing away down the road, already 2.5 seconds ahead.
What do you do if you're the McLaren team boss, Ron Dennis? You look at this, do you feel powerless? Do you think, how am I going to switch the order around? So many races, Michael's won 5 races this year, but so many times we've seen this, that Ferrari have got a good start, they've consolidated, controlled the pace at the beginning of the race. The McLaren seem to have been comfortable just sitting behind them, just biding their time, but at the end of the day, they've not been able to deliver the pace when it's mattered later on in the race. So today, they've got to try and find that little bits of something special.
Yes, there's nothing they can do yet. Until they're somewhere near a fuel stop window, they can't adjust this race. It's all in the hands of the driver, really. Coulthard's just got to stay as close as he can, as close as the aerodynamics will allow, and pick up from any mistakes Barrichello might make, or wait until they get to near some traffic, to lap some traffic. Michael, again, now 0.8 of a second faster on the lap they've just completed, and there is Ralf Schumacher in a Jordan sandwich.
A tremendous opening sequence from Michael Schumacher as he opens up a 3.2-second cushion after just 4 laps. That's 3/4 of a second a lap. He's faster than the pursuing pack. Rubens Barrichello still second. Then it's Coulthard third, Hakkinen fourth, Villeneuve fifth, Frentzen in 6th, Ralf Schumacher 7th, Jarno Trulli demoted to 8th place, Mika Salo going strongly in the Sauber in 9th place, and Eddie Irvine's lost 4 places down in 10th. Jenson holding on, Jenson Button in 11th spot.
It's Mika Hakkinen from 4th place making a move. He's just done the fastest first section of the race so far. 3/10 faster than Michael Schumacher as it happens, and Coulthard too, looking like he's finding a bit of grip now. The 3rd and 4th place McLaren, so they seem a little bit of a wheel lock up there for Ralf Schumacher. It looks like an engine failure because the aerodynamics suck that smoky air underneath and puts it out the back through the Venturi, but all it is the unloaded front wheel as the weight transfers across the anti-roll bars, just locking up.
Early days yet, but the thing to watch out for, folks, is the rear tyres, because they're the ones that go off fastest here around this Magny-Cours circuit. It may be billiard table smooth, but the tyre wear is particularly high, particularly when it's been raining, as it was this morning. It washes the rubber off the track, makes it green, and after a while, the rear tyres start to fade away. You'll see the cars sliding around a bit under braking. You'll see them struggling to get grip out of corners as Ralf Schumacher has another look at Heinz-Harald Frentzen coming down into Grand Courbe. This is lap 6. And Ralf Schumacher is in a very racy mode today. He's obviously up for it. He qualified 5th, currently lying 7th, and he's looking for more points today from the Williams team. It's been a while since Ralf scored any points. In fact, he hasn't scored for 3 races now. Celebrated his 25th birthday this weekend. Says his leg injury that he sustained at Monaco is pretty much behind him now, and Ralf is on a charge.
Yes, another thing I'd like to see is you watch Ralf still sandwiched up there is a replay of the start. I thought Coulthard appeared to get away reasonably well. Certainly Michael Schumacher got away extremely well and just covered his bases, moved straight across. Maybe Coulthard had to lift out of it slightly or something because Barrichello sneaked through somehow. We've not seen a replay of that. I hope we do later on. But it does seem like Frentzen now is struggling a little bit. Ralf Schumacher is the faster of those three cars there.
Yes, and Williams really fighting for their position in the Constructors' Championship as well, because after Giancarlo Fisichella's excellent run to a podium in Canada, Benetton actually overhauled them for third place, the best of the rest, if you like, behind McLaren and Ferrari in the Constructors. So with Benetton not looking very strong today, Fisichella currently lying 15th and Wirtz a rather miserable 20th. It's a good day for Williams to strike back. If they want to get back ahead of the Benetton team, they need to score 3 or 4 points today, and certainly the way Ralph's going at the moment, that's not inconceivable.
Coulthard not exactly troubling the mirrors off Barrichello as they head out of Estoril once more through the sweeping right-hander of Gulf, and he certainly doesn't appear to get close enough to do any damage and cause any distraction for Rubens Barrichello. But surely Coulthard has the better car under braking. I noticed when I was talking over the onboard laps, they all seem to be braking around 110 metres going in there. Coulthard can get in there at 100 metres. He is very, very good under braking there, but it's no good to him if he can't get nearer to Barrichello.
So Schumacher leading from Barrichello, 3.6 seconds now the advantage. Coulthard just over a second behind, then Häkkinen 1.2 down on his teammate. Villeneuve holding in there as well, 9 seconds behind the leader, just 3 seconds shy of the pace of Häkkinen. Frentzen still there, Ralf Schumacher and Jarno Trulli. And Coulthard, well, they seem to me, Martin, to be carrying roughly the same amount of fuel. I have to say that the leaders in this race, they're running a similar sort of pace. Schumacher obviously made a blistering opening account, first 2 or 3 laps. Now the pace seems to have settled, and they seem to be carrying roughly the same sort of fuel load at the moment.
Yes, they do. Michael's just come over the line at a 20.6, Barrichello 20.8, Coulthard 20.7, and Häkkinen the first one then in the 21.0. So Coulthard just about matching now Michael Schumacher's pace, but he's got Barrichello between him and his World Championship rival.
Michael Schumacher chasing his 22nd career victory for the Ferrari team. He's already the most successful Ferrari driver of all time. And this weekend, his team boss, Jean Todt, is celebrating 7 years in control of the Maranello team. And certainly when he took over, the prancing horse was looking pretty lame. They even had to pay for the mechanics' overalls, fireproof overalls in the pit stops. Now it's a sponsorship, it's available at the highest price. Who wants to buy the Ferrari overalls? So let's have a quick look at the top 6. Michael Schumacher leads from Rubens Barrichello, then it's David Coulthard with Häkkinen 4th, Jacques Villeneuve 5th, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 6th place. Rubens Barrichello, David Coulthard third, Hakkinen still in fourth place, Jacques Villeneuve fifth, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen is sixth.
Yes, and to just take you through the rest of the Brits, Eddie Irvine is 10th, Jenson Button 11th, and Johnny Herbert 12th. So running line astern, Coulthard up there in third place. They've sort of pegged Michael Schumacher a little bit on pace. He's still eking out 2 or 3 tenths per lap, and Coulthard seems like he's got a fraction over Barrichello, but not enough to make the difference. So Michael Schumacher's lead now up at 4.2 seconds, as I'm sure you're about to see at the bottom of your screen. 5.0 as he's now halfway round the next lap. They give you those times depending on which section of the lap they've just gone through. So Michael Schumacher 5 seconds up, and Barrichello dropping back into the 1:21s for the first time through the race.
As they cross the line this time, Jarno Trulli looking low. He's closing the gap here on Ralf Schumacher. This is the principal interest of the race at the moment. That's the Frentzen, Ralf Schumacher, Jarno Trulli battle. This is the scrap for 6th place, for the final points-paying position. And Ralf is taking all sorts of different lines from Frentzen around this track, but Trulli certainly closing the gap. And they are in turn closing up a little bit on Jacques Villeneuve, who had a poor lap that last time by.
Yes, I saw Ralf Schumacher again doing what he was doing in Canada and leaning down in the cockpit, trying to get more airflow through the intake above his head. Can give you 3 or 4 more horsepower if you get a bit more positive pressure in there. I'll point it out again if I see it in time. And we're happen to be watching Ralf Schumacher. But we're back now with Barrichello in 2nd place and Coulthard still harrying him. Hakkinen just dropped back now by about 1.8 seconds from Coulthard, and it's pretty much status quo, isn't it?
It is, but Rubens Barrichello just dropped some time there to Michael Schumacher on that last lap. It was a slow lap from Rubens, and it seems to have allowed David to just get that little bit closer to him in this battle for 2nd place. Hakkinen still a bit of a drift there, and 7 seconds disadvantage to Michael Schumacher, and in fact he's just over 2 seconds back from Coulthard.
All 22 cars are still running in the field. Looking at Coulthard there, who's just been re-signed with McLaren for 2001, and he starts his 6th year in partnership with Mika Hakkinen. That's the longest partnership in the history of Formula One, and I think to get anywhere near that you have to go back pre-war to Caracciola and Von Brauwich, I think it was. And I think in recent times, relatively recent times, the next longest partnership between 2 drivers in the same team was Jackie Stewart and Francois Sever in the Tyrrell, I'm led to believe.
It's a good sign, really, isn't it, Martin? Consistency in a team. If you can keep the same family together, you can move and develop and grow over the years. And certainly the McLaren team spent a long time in the wilderness with changes of engine. I remember when you were there back in '94 with the Peugeot engine, and they shifted around. They had a Fords for a while. And whoa, that looks like one of the Prost that spun. It is indeed. It looks like a Lacey, a little bit hot into the Adelaide hairpin from the looks of things. And he's certainly been passed by Fisichella and Heidfeld and Verstappen, I believe, as well. So lost a little bit of space there, I think. That's Heidfeld and Fisichella, and they're running currently in 14th and 15th place. Let's take a look again, Martin.
Oh, right, and it's... Oh, I think that was Heidfeld who tipped a Lacey into a spin, his teammate. Heidfeld came in a little bit too deep in his attempts to pass the Benetton and ran into the back of his teammate. That'll go down well. John's not too calm on those sort of situations, but wasn't there a bit of a strike at Prost apparently today?
Well, there's some talk this morning that the Prost mechanics actually put down tools for 5 minutes and refused to do any work in sign of protest. They're quite militant, I think, sometimes, these guys, and they were unhappy about something, I believe, that was said yesterday within the team about the way they'd approached and handled the qualifying session. Pretty poor session for the Prost team.
Well, I did see a big group of people around the Prost motorhome, and everybody was scratching their heads wondering what was going on. I guess if that's Formula One's equivalent of a strike, then they did it in style around a rather smart motorhome.
Not happy days at the Prost team at the moment. And Alain Prost, a 4-time world champion, 51 times a Grand Prix winner, as you look at his car being driven by Nick Heidfeld there on the screen. But he just doesn't seem to be able to connect as a team owner. He had everything it took to be a winning Grand Prix driver, but as an owner, he seems to be struggling, Martin. Somehow these successful drivers don't make good bosses.
Well, some of them do. Jackie Stewart made a pretty handy Grand Prix boss, but that was some 20-odd years after he'd finished racing, and I think it is a different mentality you need to just look after yourself and win for yourself out there, using your team to do so. It's a different mentality and skills needed than to control 400 or 500 people and get them all together and pointing them in the right direction. So we're back now watching Barrichello and Coulthard about the same distance apart, 7/10 of a second, as they head down to the hairpin.
Real cat and mouse stuff here. Real cat and mouse stuff here between Ferrari and McLaren. I believe Louise Goodman is down in the Ferrari garage.
I am indeed watching this race from the sharp end. They've had a dream start to this race, have we seen, but they really need to back it up today. I've just been having a chat with Nigel Stepney, the chief mechanic, about the preparations that Ferrari have made for this race. They've really stepped things up. In the past, the team have paid a heavy penalty because they didn't have a plan B. We saw it with the pit stops in Canada, for example. According to Nigel, they not only have a plan B, they have a plan C here as well. They've tried to second guess every possible eventuality. They've even brought extra people for this event. They know how critical this race is just as much as McLaren do.
Yes, and you're watching a replay there. I think it was Johnny Herbert desperately trying not to run into the back of Irvine, and they're dicing for 11th and 12th place, and it looked like Salo in front of them was having a run to. Jenson Button has passed Mika Salo, and that was the action you saw as they left the hairpin. So Button now up to 9.
Yeah, Button up to 9th. He's made up 2 places in the last 2 laps. Unseen by us on the television, the French director hasn't showed us Jenson's progress, but he really does need a good result here this weekend, Jenson. It's been pretty slim pickings in the last few races. He started out very well, but still only 1 point's finished so far this season for him.
That's on the screen there. You're seeing the difference. As I said, all 22 cars running. So Michael Schumacher is 52 seconds ahead of Mazzacani, who's last. So it's something like 80 seconds for a lap, so it's not very long before Michael Schumacher will be coming up to lap the tail enders, and still Ralf Schumacher can't get past or away from the Jordans.
Now, I've got a question for you, Martin. The last really hot race we had was the Monaco Grand Prix a month ago, and you remember on that day the exhaust system on the Ferrari overheated the rear suspension on that car, causing it to break, and Michael's only mechanical retirement of the year. They'll obviously have taken steps to avoid that happening again, but this heat obviously has an effect, a big effect on the cars, and leads to reliability problems, even though obviously at the moment we don't seem to have had any so far.
Yes, I think the ambient temperature within reason doesn't make that much difference. There's several drivers were saying they saw Michael whack the barrier twice in Monaco, and that it wasn't a suspension failure as much as him making a mistake. Who knows? The Ferrari team said they had a cracked exhaust. I don't think it's really anything to do with the ambient temperature at all, James. It's running so hot in that car. The brakes are 700 to 800 degrees. The tyres are 100 degrees. Even the fuel in the tank behind the drivers gets up to about 50 degrees centigrade. The engines are running 110, 115. Some of these latest engines, I think, run significantly hotter than that, so they can have smaller radiators, less drag, less water in the system, so a little bit of ambient doesn't make such a big difference.
All right then, Martin, you're Ralf Schumacher in this situation. You're chasing down Heinz-Harald Frentzen for a points-paying position for 6th place. You've been looking at him for lap after lap after lap. You just can't find a way by. What are you thinking?
You're thinking, I've got to sit here and maximise the opportunities as they come to me. I don't have enough speed to pass him, but what he mustn't do is run into him, of course. But he's got to stay close enough if he can force Frentzen into making any kind of error, but he won't do from that far back. It's too much of a comfort zone that he's giving Frentzen there.
Been very impressed with that Williams BMW this year. The chassis, a tremendous improvement on last year's Williams, which was driven very spiritedly by Ralf Schumacher, but Zanardi really failed in the car, and they certainly made big improvements on that this year. Michael Schumacher still leading this race. He goes through with a gap now of 5.7 seconds over his teammate Rubens Barrichello, and David Coulthard staying in touch. Mika Häkkinen also staying in touch. 8 seconds now Häkkinen is behind Schumacher.
And look at this, Jenson Button in 9th place. He's not on your screen, but now he's passed Salo and got some clear air in front of him. He is just about lapping on the same pace as Schumacher and co at the front of the field. So Jenson Button has certainly got, he's catching the people in front of him over a second a lap. So we can look forward to a bit of action there. Probably just 4 or 5 laps away as Button cruises up behind Trulli, who you've seen stuck behind Ralf Schumacher.
And in contrast, you have to say the Jaguars do seem to be going backwards. They started Eddie Irvine 6th on the grid, currently running in 11th place and lapping in the 1:23.7s, in contrast to Michael Schumacher, who's doing 20.7s, and Button in the low 21s. So the Jaguars once again flattering to deceive in qualifying, well up the grid into the top 10. but seem to be sliding back a little bit in the race. But Kevin Piper has news for us about the Prost team.
Yes, and the Prost crew are getting ready as we speak to bring in Jean Alesi, but their spin on what happened out there on the track is slightly different to what the pictures suggested. They are blaming Giancarlo Fisichella for coming together with Jean Alesi, so whether that's a sign of things to come tonight in Euro 2000, a bit of a showdown with the French, who can tell, but Alesi, I think it's fair to say, about to come in.
Well, maybe I need my eyes testing, but I don't think so. It looked very much like one Prost connecting to another to me. So I think there'll be some discussion after the race on that. I don't think Fisichella was involved in it, other than being the man that Heidfeld was trying to pass.
Now then, let's just talk a little bit about Michael Schumacher, shall we? 7 points he's averaged, and we've got a car off, and that's Zonta into the tyre barriers. Ricardo Zonta was lying in 17th place, and well, he may have been having a move on Verstappen. That may have caused it.
I suspect that's the Imola chicane. I'm not an expert on the gravel traps there particularly, but it looked like it may have been the Imola, and he's gone straight into the tyres. Maybe we'll see a replay of that. And the man on the move also is Mika Hakkinen, picking up his pace again, but he's still some 1.7 seconds behind David Coulthard, the third-place man, and Barrichello looking calm and collected, isn't he, in a solid second place, now 6.3 seconds behind the leader.
Well, we're getting word from the pits, and in fact Zonta went off all on his own. He was 0.7 of a second behind Jos Verstappen in the battle for 16th place, so I thought perhaps he'd had a bit of a go at Verstappen and come off the worst, but in fact drove straight off the road of his own accord.
You saw briefly there in the background, there's a diamond screen as you come down the hill into Lycée, the last corner. It's tempting, and you often do look up at the screen and see what else is going on in the race. It is, believe it or not, a valuable source of information for the drivers when in a reasonably slow corner they can see a big diamond screen that's up there for the spectators.
I was just saying before Zonta went off that Michael Schumacher's averaging 7 points a race at the moment this season, which is an amazing average. Normally and traditionally for the last 6 years, the world champion has averaged 5 points a race. So Michael 2 up on that. And certainly one or two of the statisticians around the paddock this weekend have been working out that if he secures another 45 points, that'll be enough to clinch the title.
Well, as Ali McCoy said at the beginning of our show, Coulthard's got to win this race today. Michael Schumacher doesn't have to win this race, and certainly he'll be thinking about that if they're head-to-head later on in this race. If there's a big dive up the inside, Michael will be perfectly satisfied to close the door. Johnny Herbert is in the pits. His pace had dropped well into the 23s. I don't know if it's a projector stop. That's a Alesi, of course, in the Prost, and a relatively long stop considering that they're obviously on a 3-stop strategy. Not a good stop there from the Prost team, and Alesi rejoins, but Johnny Herbert is still in the pit lane. Apparently his pit stop was 18.4 seconds.
That is a big loss of time. But Alesi, these clocks and these pit stop clocks, you've always been a little bit careful with them because they don't tend to stop them immediately the car starts to move. It's the stationary time you've got to be interested in. And the Alesi stop to me looked as though they were putting a bit of fuel into the car, possibly for a longer second stint. So bringing him in early, as I think the plan had been to stop him 3 times, realising it's not working for them, I think they've switched him to a 2-stopper. Now the question is, Jenson Button on the same sort of plan. I know Patrick Head was talking earlier in the weekend about the possibility of stopping 3 times, and certainly with Jenson having started this race in 10th place on the grid, 3 stops might have been an option for them, but well, it would certainly be bold, and looks like 3 stops isn't working today.
No, and it never did. I 3-stopped here. I remember, I think it was 95, and had a ding-dong battle with Coulthard in the Williams. He 2-stopped. My car was much faster, but I couldn't pass him when I needed to towards the end. And here we have Heidfeld in for his first stop, just 19 laps into this motor race. So both Prosts have been in now, and I think that explains why Alesi, and he stalled the engine, has he? Or have they got a problem on the right rear? No, he stalled the engine. Prost not looking at all happy.
Yeah, and in an interview in the French newspapers this week, Alain Prost was asked about his 2 drivers. He said, well, Alesi has a lion's heart. He always tries his absolute hardest, whether it be qualifying or the race. You can always rely on him. Heidfeld, I'm not so sure about him. He seems to go backwards in the races. He doesn't seem strong enough to last the Grand Prix distance. Damning words indeed from a team boss, and certainly it looks as though Heidfeld has let the side down again in that pit stop. So with Schumacher leading from Barrichello, Coulthard in 3rd place, Hakkinen 4th still 5th is Villeneuve, and 6th Heinz-Harald Frentzen. We're going to take a break. Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello, and while you were away, this happened.
Yes, Coulthard got a good run out of Estoril. Look, got in the slipstream, and then he got quite smart. He realised that Barrichello was going to cut his route off down the inside, so gave himself good track position for maximum traction out of the Adelaide hairpin. Then it's a drag race down, and Barrichello will have to yield. Coulthard has the line. Very, very cute move there, and it's certainly a critical part of this race.
And it's all starting to happen now also in the pit stops. Jacques Villeneuve is in the pits. Also in the pits is Ralf Schumacher, and so is Heinz Frentzen. Slow away for Ralf Schumacher. Has he lost the position that he had before? Has he lost time to Frentzen? He's certainly back out on the track, Frentzen, so a critical time now in the 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th place battle here.
That could actually play into Jenson Button's hands as well, because that was a very slow getaway there for Ralf Schumacher, and Button has really been homing in on his teammate and those two Jordans. So Johnny Herbert has retired from this race. We saw him get out of the car earlier on. Kevin Piper, what can you tell us?
Well, it seems that Johnny Herbert's bad luck just continues. He has had to retire because of a gearbox problem, and poor Johnny has got in, slammed his gloves down on the bench and walked through. Doesn't want to talk to anybody right now, but it's a gearbox problem for the Jaguar.
And Mika Hakkinen is in the pits as well, unseen by us. There he is, Mika Hakkinen from 4th place. Lap 23 this is exactly when I thought they would start coming in. One or two of them look as though they're going to run longer. Schumacher, Coulthard and Barrichello. Nice stop there by the McLaren team. They are really the best at this. I've watched them many, many times. They are super slick. Mike Nagleimer, chief mechanic, has them drilled. It's like a military operation, and Hakkinen giving himself a fighting chance.
We're going through a very critical phase of this Grand Prix. Coulthard's been released. He's a full half-second faster than Michael Schumacher on the last lap. Jenson Button is in the pits from a current 4th place. We'll see where he comes out onto the track. Is he ahead of the Jordans? Is he ahead of... The Jordans haven't stopped yet, actually, but is he ahead of Ralf Schumacher, his teammate? It's going to be interesting to see. But Coulthard has already started to bite into Michael Schumacher's lead. How long can Coulthard stay out on the racetrack? If he's got a couple of laps of fuel in his tank, he's currently pulling out well over a second a lap. And there's the, I can see down the Ferrari mechanics getting ready. We don't know which we think, and it is. It's Michael Schumacher in the pit lane now, and he can just drive straight into his pit garage. And there, a full 22 people involved in making sure that they get this car out in 6 or 7 seconds. And that is a... the clock didn't stop on time. It's a reasonable stop, not sensational.
Definitely a two-stopper for Michael Schumacher then. His first stop on lap 24 from the lead, and that means that Coulthard now leads the French Grand Prix. He was 4.2 seconds behind him at the end of the last lap. Michael will have lost 21 seconds to Coulthard. It'll also put him behind Barrichello, but it may just bring him out in front of Hakkinen. Where is Mika Hakkinen? Is he in front of him on the racetrack? We can't see at the moment. There's Coulthard leading this motor race. Rubens Barrichello is in 2nd place, but where is Mika Hakkinen? Is he in front or behind of Michael Schumacher? Got to be behind, I think, Martin.
I think he'll almost certainly be behind him. It wasn't a bad enough stop for Michael to release Hakkinen in front of him, absolutely for sure. The critical thing now is, can McLaren get Coulthard in and out and make sure that he stays ahead of Rubens Barrichello? And when it all shakes out, I think Michael will still be leading this race, and it depends how good Coulthard's stop is. Kevin Piper is with Johnny Herbert. And Johnny Herbert scampered off, so we're back on board now with David Coulthard coming in. Does he go in the pit lane? Yes, he does. So Coulthard leading the race into the pit lane for his first stop, James.
David Coulthard comes in, and what's he going to do this time? His lead over Michael Schumacher was negligible when he came in. Schumacher will definitely take the lead of the race as they come down the hill. Coulthard, the tyres going on, not a bad stop. Fuel goes in, and it's 7.3 seconds. Another superb stop by the McLaren team. So he'll come out, I think, behind Michael Schumacher, who's just crossed the start-finish line. And Rubens Barrichello also in from 2nd place. So when it shakes out, there's Hakkinen in the background. So Coulthard rejoins in front of Mika Hakkinen, but does Rubens Barrichello? I think he doesn't. He's behind Mika Hakkinen. So Mika has jumped Rubens Barrichello in that first round of pit stops, I think.
Well, that's Coulthard there. It's got a big David written on the back of it, and there's Hakkinen. So the Ferrari must be Barrichello. Hakkinen, this has worked out beautifully for him too. Where is Michael Schumacher? We need to pick him up somehow on the TV screen. I'm assuming there he is. There is Michael Schumacher. He's into the Imola chicane as Coulthard exits, and it's not worked out at all well. We're seeing a replay of the Jordans touching through Lycée. That's Trulli's party trick of the afternoon as the Prost goes scampering across the gravel. He'll have a little bounce when it touches the grass, and that's Heidfeld having yet another mistake there.
Now let's look at that Trulli incident, because I mean he really muscled his way through there on Frentzen, who looked like he was a bit dawdling a little bit into the Lycée. And Trulli, as you say, his party trick this afternoon, they touch wheels. Will there be words afterwards as we look at De La Rosa, I think? Oh, it's Verstappen, in fact. He's changed his helmet colours back again after the last Grand Prix. He was supporting the Dutch national side, repainted his helmet bright orange, but it's back to its normal again. But
so Michael Schumacher is 5.3 seconds ahead then, as you watch the Arrows driver trying to get the wheel back on. He must put the steering wheel on before he leaves the car. He won't want to be sitting there very long as they're storming past about 160 miles an hour. Schumacher leads Coulthard by 5.3 seconds, and yes indeed, Häkkinen did clear Barrichello.
So going back to this Trulli-Frentzen incident then, Martin, when you touch wheels with your teammate in a passing manoeuvre, are there always words afterwards?
No problem, nothing more than a little kiss. Not an issue as far as I'm concerned. It really was a fair overtaking move.
So let's see how it's shaken out after the first round of pit stops. Michael Schumacher leads the race. David Coulthard is second. Mika Häkkinen is the winner from the first round of pit stops. He's jumped ahead of Rubens Barrichello. Jack Villeneuve doing a super job to hold on in 5th place. Trulli has jumped up as well. He's sick, but I don't believe he's made his pit stop yet. Frentzen is 7th. Ralf Schumacher is 8th, Button is 9th, and Diniz is in 10th place.
Yes, and look, so Ralf Schumacher did lose out with his slow getaway, but just managed to stay ahead of his teammate Jenson Button. Button has cruised up behind that trio, as we expected, but unfortunately he didn't quite clear 7/10 of a second behind. He didn't quite get past teammate Ralf Schumacher as he stuttered away from that first stop of the afternoon. Now I think we've got to look towards lap 46, 47 before we're expecting the key players back in again.
Yes, it's exactly as we thought it would be. These stops coming in the early 20s. They've taken on about 50 kilos of fuel in this stop, and that should be good enough to take them through to about lap 45. And a very good pit work today by all of the teams. It really is such an exciting part of Grand Prix racing nowadays. You're looking at this tremendous scrap between the Williams and the two Jordans. That's the Trulli, Frentzen and Ralf Schumacher, with Jenson Button just behind his teammate in a much stronger performance by Jenson.
And you've got to get smart here now. You go out on a new set of tyres, you have fantastic grip, much better than when you pitted. The tyres degrade here faster than just about any other circuit in Grand Prix racing. And you've got to resist the temptation, James, to use all of that extra grip, because you can burn those tyres out so quickly. Sure, you want to go faster, you have got some more grip, but don't punish the tyres until they've settled down for a couple of laps. And there you see the Jordan ahead of both Williams, and these cars really do seem very evenly matched, as we see a Sauber in the pits, and that is Pedro Diniz. That's got to be out of sequence.
Yes, just a little bit sloppy as they pushed him away. But let's just talk a little bit about Jenson Button. Not scored any points in his last 4 starts. I mean, a terrific start to the season. Scored points, of course, at the British Grand Prix, and a bit of a lock-up there from Ralf Schumacher. But Jenson now right on the gearbox of his teammate, and that's where he's got to be if he wants to keep this Williams drive. Jenson really looking to turn back the form book, as Coulthard sets the fastest lap with a 1:19.479.
Yes, Coulthard taking, I agree with you on Button, it's exactly where he needs to be, and then even having a go at Ralf to say, hey, look, me too, I can be that good. But Coulthard took a full 1.4 seconds out of Michael Schumacher's lead on that lap, and it's now down to just 3.6. I suspect, remember the two McLarens were faster in the warm-up significantly than the Ferraris. I suspect now they've cleared Barrichello, they should have a better car, especially as the tyres start to wear a little bit. I think Coulthard did have one back marker between him and Michael Schumacher. We haven't seen Coulthard recently. I would expect he's cleared that back marker now.
Yes, I think Rubens Barrichello was clearly holding up David Coulthard and Mika Häkkinen. Once again, Barrichello not finding the kind of pace of his teammate Michael Schumacher. And now this man, David Coulthard, is like a cork out of a bottle. He's released and he's chasing down Michael Schumacher. And once again, he takes 0.3 of a second out of him in the first sector. And in the second sector, he takes 0.8 of a second out of him. He's eating into the lead of Michael Schumacher. And very, very soon, he's going to catch him. And we're going to have a very thrilling battle for the lead. And it's also the championship battle here.
So they're in the same short pit straight, just one Minardi between them. It's easier to chase than be chased, and Coulthard is going to very much relish this next few laps. Unfortunately, knowing when he gets there, he's got to somehow try and pass an on-form Michael Schumacher. But we've very much got an on-form David Coulthard.
We have indeed. We've also got a Coulthard who's very confident at the moment. A Coulthard who's happy to carve his way through traffic. A Coulthard who's not afraid to have a go, to lunge, to let the people in front know he's coming through. There's just one back marker now between him and Michael Schumacher as he hunts the two-time world champion down. 2.5 seconds as they came through last time. He's eaten a full 1.5 seconds out of Schumacher's lead, and this motor race is coming alive as David Coulthard takes on Michael Schumacher.
And we know that the pair of them have got the mental and physical stamina and fitness to get through this race at this, what is a very hot pace, James, into the 1:19s, the lot of them, with the exception of Michael Schumacher. He does seem to be a little bit slow, and Häkkinen on a roll too. Michael definitely is not enjoying this stage of the race. Maybe this fresh set of tyres is not to his liking. We have seen him constantly having to clear back markers, of course. It does upset your rhythm, but Coulthard is slicing through them better.
He does seem to be at the moment, you have to say, but you wouldn't put money against Michael Schumacher. He is in the lead of this race, and he's got one back marker between himself and Coulthard, and well, when Coulthard gets up even behind him, he's still going to have a tough job to get past Michael. He's won 40 Grand Prix in his career, and he didn't do it by getting out of the way whenever anybody caught him up.
Interestingly, Verstappen's arrows is parked on the pit straight with a stationary yellow above it as Coulthard shapes up to lap the Prost of Heidfeld. Heidfeld kindly moves completely off the racing line, and now just 1.9 seconds. I don't believe there's anybody between them, is there? There's not. It's just fresh air now between Schumacher in the lead and Coulthard 1.9 seconds down the road, and Häkkinen not quite getting through the traffic as well.
Coulthard has had the strangest weekend. He had a fuel pump failure on Friday and only did 6 laps. On Saturday morning he had a full fuel pump failure and then an engine failure, and he had a real tough time as Häkkinen gets through the back markers as well. He had a real tough time in qualifying yesterday. It was a real test of character for David Coulthard, who eventually managed to unhook a fantastic lap, but we were all wondering whether if he'd had a clear session with a good car that wasn't breaking down on him, whether he would have pushed Michael Schumacher a little bit more. For sure he would have taken that pole away from him. Michael would have had to extend himself. Now we're going to see the battle we've been waiting for a couple of races' time as Coulthard closes right up on the back of Michael Schumacher.
It's the only session we saw all through this race meeting where McLaren wasn't at the top, and particularly Coulthard was in final qualifying, where Michael Schumacher put in a stunning first lap of the afternoon. But now the lead is down to 1.3 seconds, and at this stage Coulthard's got to make sure he's concentrating on his bit of the racetrack and not focusing too much on the rear wing of that Ferrari, but he's going to be happy.
So we're looking at reasons for why Michael Schumacher might be losing time. His last lap, a 1:21.205. Doesn't seem to have had a great deal of traffic on that lap. He's closing up on some more on a Prost. I think it probably is the case, Martin, that he doesn't like this second set of tyres very much. It seems odd, I know, to when you watch it. They're all black and round and there's 4 of them and you bolt them on. How can there be a difference between them? But there so often is, and quite often, particularly in the middle stint of a race, we see the second set of tyres just doesn't work quite so well. It was one of the reasons why Schumacher got into trouble in Jerez in '97, which allowed Jacques Villeneuve to make that move on him. And of course, the World Championship turned at that point, and these tyres do seem to be very much of a struggle for Michael Schumacher.
Yes, that's the point. When you're saving brand new sets of tyres for the race, inevitably you don't know what they're like, and you put them on, and it's a chemical reaction when the rubber is biting the track. And look how close Coulthard is now, and he's not close enough to have a go up the inside into Liese, but he really is just homing straight in, another 0.7 of a second faster. And Häkkinen now, easily the fastest man on the racetrack, back there in third. The McLaren is working beautifully. Just watch him. Coulthard can get the nose of that McLaren exactly where he wants to. The McLarens are faster than the Ferraris at this stage of the race.
Just half a second in it then on lap 32. We're not even at half distance yet, and already we're approaching a battle for the lead.
Now what's going to happen, look, and Coulthard again, he appears to have a much better car under braking into that hairpin, so if he can stay close enough, just like with Barrichello, he's going to be able to get past Michael Schumacher. If he can't clear Schumacher quickly, what's going to happen here is Häkkinen's going to cruise up on the back of both of them. Coulthard had a slightly shorter stop than the others. I don't know whether they put a slightly less fuel in, whether he's got to go for a shorter middle stint, or whether it was just absolutely clockwork for that particular stop.
Now, Nigel Mansell always used to say, when you catch a car like this, what you've got to do is attack straight away, as we watch Mazzacani just losing control. Mazzacani was down in 19th place and going off at very high speed and making a very light, well, not too bad an impact with the tyre barrier. Shouldn't be too much damage to him after that. But Nigel Mansell always used to say, when you catch a car, what you have to do is attack it immediately. And Coulthard has now caught Schumacher. Is he going to attack immediately?
Well, he's going to try, but he's still got the same old problem of getting through 1, 2 and 3 in the dirty air of that Ferrari, and especially on highish downforce circuits like this. You know, a Formula 1 car punches a pretty big hole in the air, and all of that turbulent. But look, Coulthard appears to have good speed in the middle. Again, could come to the white line. Can he pick up a bit of slipstream now? He's just about close enough. Yes, he is homing in, and Michael Schumacher knows it, and he goes to the inside. Now we know Coulthard's better under braking, and he tries to go around the outside. Oh, don't get too close to him, Dave, for goodness sake, you'll be popped up in the air. But Coulthard, he knows he's got to show Michael Schumacher some muscle. But as I said earlier on in this race, Schumacher doesn't need to win this race. David Coulthard does.
That's absolutely true, and Michael Schumacher needs to be shown a little bit of strength, as you say. It's absolutely essential with Schumacher that you have a little element of fear, because he really seems to fear nobody. He walks around this paddock with such an enormous air of confidence. He swaggers around. He's the best driver in Formula 1. Everyone keeps telling him that. And David Coulthard is really on a roll. His confidence, his momentum have been growing throughout the second part of this season, and he really needs to make a move. Let's have another look, Martin.
Yes, let's have another look. And there was not a lot of point in trying to squeeze Michael Schumacher at that point. It could have ended up in tears, that one with a broken wishbone. But there's another view of it, and David really saying, hey, I'm coming after you. But I think he was pushing his luck a little. It was yes, do that one more time, he says. And well, other gestures. I'm
gesture,
pretty impressed that Coulthard's got the presence of mind to be thinking about that as he's going around the outside trying to take the lead of the French Grand Prix. But there you go. But as advertised, it's Mika Hakkinen that's now cruising up into the picture, just 0.4 of a second behind Coulthard.
And Coulthard seems to have lost just a little bit of ground as a result of that. He's obviously taking stock and just having a bit of a think about where the best place to get Michael Schumacher is. Certainly on the evidence of what we saw on lap 33, under braking for the Adelaide hairpin is going to be the best place, but also a surprise move could do well. I think Schumacher will now be expecting that move possibly into the hairpin as we turn back and look at this battle for 6th, 7th and 8th place, still raging as it has from lap 1 between Trulli, Frentzen and Ralf Schumacher, and it's in that order: Trulli 6th, Frentzen 7th, Ralf 8th, and Jenson Button still holding on in 9th place. Terrific scrap here for 6th place between the two Jordans and the two Williamses, and really this is the battle for the best of the rest in a way. Jordan were 3rd in the Constructors' Championship last year, desperately want to hold on to it again, particularly with the news this weekend. They're going to have Works Honda engines for the next 5 years. There's an enormous wave of confidence at Jordan. At the moment they're languishing down in 5th place in the World Championship, and today they need some big points to get themselves back up where they feel they should be, which is 3rd in the Constructors. And at the moment it's Benetton who are currently 3rd place.
Yes, Jordan were in a catch-22. They don't have a technical director. Mike Gascoigne's off to Benetton, which is soon to be called Renault, and they didn't have a works engine. You need one to attract the other, and they had neither, and they really were in trouble. So that Honda news is really a lifesaver for Eddie Jordan and his team.
And very bad news, of course, for British American Racing, because it means they'll be sharing what they previously thought was an exclusive engine. But of course there will be Honda technicians working at the BAR factory as we rejoin the battle for the lead. Coulthard has gathered his breath, he's had a bit of a think about it, and he's on the attack again.
He's probably got his gloves off so he can make more clear signs next time, but it's rather silly making signs at other drivers. If they look in their mirrors, all they can see mostly is their own rear tyres and own rear wing. They're certainly not looking out for the number of fingers that you're holding up to them or any other suitable traffic jam sign language.
Schumacher leads by just 0.6 of a second. You can see it, it's almost a cigarette paper between them. David Coulthard and then 3rd place is Mika Hakkinen, 4th Rubens Barrichello, 5th still Jacques Villeneuve, 6th Trulli, 7th Frentzen, 8th is Ralf Schumacher, 9th is Button and 10th is Fisichella. But this is the story of the race, and just look how close they are.
Now this is the chance for Coulthard. This is his chance, because I don't think Michael is going to clear that what I think is a Sauber in front of him before turn 3. He's not going to clear that before. Will he catch him in turn 3? Because if he does, that is when Coulthard is going to get a good clean run at him, because Michael is then disadvantaged in the same way he is in the dirty air of another car. But in fact neither of them have caught the blue car, so it stays pretty. Catch him in turn 3, because if he does, that is when Coulthard is going to get a good, clean run at him, because Michael is then disadvantaged in the same way he is in the dirty air of another car. But in fact, neither of them have caught the blue car, so it stays pretty much. But and there is Wirtz off the road. Continuing his terrible season, but I don't want to see this. I want to see this. Coulthard has got a much better run, but Michael Schumacher, the widest Ferrari you've ever seen, managing to occupy just about all of the track at the same time.
And that's where he got past Barrichello. That's where Coulthard passed Barrichello under traction coming out of that corner as he has another look down into the hairpin.
No, you'll never get through there. That's definitely one at a time, and there's no way that David's going to have a chance through there. Wirtz leaping over the tyres, but this is the real action. The two McLarens now really harrowing Michael Schumacher. He simply doesn't have the speed. And that's Wirtz trying the Trulli trick. And look, that's a bit pathetic, isn't it?
So absolutely nothing separating them. That's Jean Alesi, you can see, doesn't quite understand what on earth is going on there.
That was smart stuff from Alesi. He saw him coming, look, turned out and let him just stream through. So John Alesi there showing great awareness.
Back with the lead battle, Schumacher, Coulthard, Häkkinen. Nothing to choose between them. 22 points between them in the World Championship. But today is the day when McLaren have to work as a team. They have to get a 1-2 finish ahead of Michael Schumacher. And how are they going to do it? As we work lap 38 of this race, we've just passed the halfway stage. Schumacher, Coulthard, Häkkinen. Barrichello being dropped now, 3.8 seconds behind.
No, I don't agree with you, James. Barrichello is now lapping 1.4 seconds faster than Michael Schumacher, and he's beginning to cruise in. He's just 2.7 seconds behind. There he is in the background, look. So Barrichello has got a second wind in this race. Oh, David, you've got to be closer than that, mate. Otherwise, you will be going to be losing at least a nose, if not a front corner. But at least, I don't think he was actually having a go there. He was simply trying to annoy Michael Schumacher. And I think Barrichello is definitely in with a chance of cruising up and making it a foursome.
So it's been some time now that Coulthard's been up the gearbox of Michael Schumacher. He's had one serious attempt at passing him. He's had a couple of little looks. But what about Mika Häkkinen in third place? What's he thinking about this? Is he going to start joining the party? He's going to let David have a try?
I think he'll be sitting back and waiting for them to run into each other, because he's been watching it all so far. He's only got the same horsepower as his teammate, so until one of those two in front of him makes some kind of mistake or trip over each other, I think Mick will be sitting there patiently at the moment, having a bit of a grin, enjoying. He's got the best grandstand seat for this challenge on the lead of the French Grand Prix, and Coulthard seems to be a little bit slow out of Lycée there.
Well, American football teams talk about two sides of the skill of the game, offense and defense. Offense is the attack, and defense, of course, is keeping people behind you, and that is what Michael Schumacher is doing extremely well at the moment. He's keeping Coulthard behind him, not giving him a chance to get a run on him, and at the moment there's just absolutely nothing to choose between them in terms of pace. But Coulthard just unable, as you see how much he closes up under braking into the hairpin.
Well, I mean, if David can just get anywhere near him, and he's not got the run that he had on Barrichello when he made the move for second place, but if David gets anywhere near him, he's just going to stream past under braking. And Michael is necessarily thinking he's in a Ferrari Testarossa this afternoon, which is pretty wide, because that's his only chance. He seems like he just can't brake any later. That McLaren is awesome under braking.
It is awesome under braking, but is there a possibility that this is Schumacher playing a few mind games just there, as Coulthard gets very, very close again into this chicane? He does seem to close right up. It's the grip he's getting out of the slow corners that's giving him the chance to get right up with Schumacher. But is Schumacher playing mind games here?
No, his car's not fast enough. Schumacher's struggling. He would not be braking that late. He's leaving himself extremely exposed, but he will not mind turning across the nose of that McLaren. And David should be aware of that, I'm sure he is. But no, Michael Schumacher doesn't have any speed in this segment of the race.
Michael Schumacher's history is a history of taking no prisoners. He's taken no prisoners in all the confrontations he's had wheel to wheel with David Coulthard down the years. There's been many an angry word exchange between the two of them. We think back to Spa in 1998. We think back to Argentina in 1998. They had to sit together on an aeroplane watching a video in order to calm each other down. They were at each other's throats.
Look, James, sorry to interrupt. Look, but this time David is going to get up the inside, surely. Yes, he is. And now he's got track position. He'll run Michael out. That was super stuff from Coulthard. He made Schumacher have to lift off, and can Häkkinen make good use of that now? And, well, Michael holding his line, but David is really in. I wouldn't want to meet him this afternoon anywhere. Coulthard really in super aggressive mode. and you were listing the times they run into each other, but more recently, Silverstone, and remember in Kuala Lumpur last year, it was always David that came off best in those type of situations, just like he did then. And did you notice that he wasn't satisfied in just passing him, he actually ran him off the road to make sure he had to get out of the throttle.
Here it is again, take us through it, Martin.
So Michael having to cover the outside line, you're not allowed to move twice, Michael knows that, and David also knew that too. And David now thinking, okay, right, you want to play hard with me, tough with me, I'm going to run you to the outside, you're going to have to get off the throttle. And the tyre walls touched on a couple of occasions through there, and I tell you, the Formula 1 cars don't have to look close when you're in that position. But look, they're touching again. Coulthard's rear tyre just... You're pushing your luck there a bit, David. The suspension is not very tough in that when it's forced in that direction. They're supersonic tough when they're when they're being used as they're designed to be, but not like that.
Aggressive, tough, ruthless, and very, very fast. What happened to the David Coulthard we used to know? Absolutely extraordinary. A changed man so far this season. He leads now by just 1 second from Michael Schumacher. Mika Häkkinen is menacing, just 7/10 behind, as Heinz-Harald Frentzen pits from 8th place. He's behind Jarno Trulli, and Ralf Schumacher's got past him as well. So it's Coulthard leading, Schumacher second, Häkkinen third, Barrichello still fourth, Villeneuve holding on well in 5th, Trulli still 6th, Ralf Schumacher 7th, Frentzen pitting there from 8th, Fisichella doing well getting up to 9th, and Button has dropped down to 10th place. We saw Johnny Herbert, of course, retiring earlier, and Eddie Irvine slipped down to 17th.
And this, the back markers not helping Coulthard at all here. Back markers and the arrows in particular, I guess it is definitely... and De La Rosa goes in the pit lane. That was good news for Coulthard. He lost a lot of time there, and he's got a bit of breathing space now. The lead that he pulled out, he lost it all behind De La Rosa going into the chicane.
Well, we're seeing some fantastic track action here between Ferrari and McLaren, between Häkkinen, Schumacher and Coulthard, and some overtaking on the track, some superb work. But I should remind you that we are also approaching the second round of pit stops. This is lap 42, and we expect to see them starting to come in around about lap 45, so pit stops will start to work into the equation. Will Häkkinen attack before, or will he wait for the stops to make his pass? Certainly this set of tyres doesn't suit Schumacher, and he should really try and get past him before the stops.
Yes, he's going to want to maximise this run if he can. He doesn't want to stop any earlier than he has to and take on even more fuel. But at the same time, Coulthard needs to make sure he stretches this lead out as we watch Fisichella leaping across the curves. He's going to run out of road on the outside for sure. Just gets it on the brake. His tyres are turning green because they spray paint the grass here to make it look prettier. And he managed to live for another day, didn't he? Now Coulthard's got some clear air. He's got to stretch this lead to give himself a cushion when he comes in what must be 4 or 5 laps at the most, I'd have thought, James.
Yes, we talked about the end of this second stint being the critical point of this motor race, and certainly the pit stops are coming into view now, and this will be where the race is won and lost. Although, judging by the way these guys are going at each other on the track, I think it's quite possible we'll see more overtaking for position later on in the race. But as you so rightly say, Martin, Michael Schumacher doesn't need to win this race. David Coulthard desperately does.
And Coulthard, he needs to be careful when the tyres are worn out towards the end of a stint, but you're pushing as hard as you can, then it's the moment when you're most likely to make a mistake, outbrake yourself. But look at the kind of lead he can pull out on Michael Schumacher. It's 1.4 seconds ahead at the end of the previous lap, all done on lap time, and now just stretching it again. He should be well over 2 as he gets to the end of this one. Michael Schumacher with his mirrors now full of yet another McLaren.
Been some time since we've seen McLaren with a race pace such as this, able to really take on Ferrari as Jarno Trulli pits from 6th position. So that puts Ralf Schumacher up into 6th place and puts Jenson Button back into the top 10. But of course, Jenson will still have to make his second stop. So a terrific scrap still going on there for the last points-paying position between Trulli, Schumacher and Button, Frentzen involved in it as well. And this is the battle at the front. Some great scraps here today at the French Grand Prix here at Magny-Cours. Sometimes the drivers say it's not a particularly thrilling track, but it's giving us a great Grand Prix here today, and a wonderful scrap for the lead between Coulthard, Schumacher and Häkkinen.
Ferrari mechanics outside our window, James, and I hear, and yes, look, Michael Schumacher is in, and so is Mika Häkkinen. So 2nd and 3rd place in. Häkkinen has to sweep around the Ferrari pits. Michael Schumacher has a straighter run. Who can get their cars up and running earliest? Schumacher's away, but Häkkinen must be just behind him. And, well, Häkkönen's not coming out at all, is he? And now he leaves. So a bad stop there for Häkkinen. That now could swap around and play into Barrichello's hands because he was right behind them.
Yeah, Schumacher stopped 7.3 seconds and Häkkinen's 8.9, so he lost 1.6 seconds somehow. Maybe the fuel hose didn't come out quite quickly enough, but Häkkinen has dropped out. Dropped a little time there.
Now, as the highest placed McLaren on the grid, David Coulthard would be given the option of choosing his race strategy and having priority on when he wanted to stop. And quite clearly, he's running a little bit more fuel all through the Grand Prix. And that's certainly paying dividends for David. Can he stretch? How much more fuel has he got in? Can he do a couple more laps? Got some clear track in front of him, James, and he needs to maximise this, and he can win this Grand Prix.
This is lap 44. He's obviously coming in very soon, and he obviously knows that Schumacher and Häkkinen have made their stops because he's already just put in his fastest first sector time of the entire race. So he's putting the hammer down now, David Coulthard, trying to build a second, 2 seconds, maybe even 3 seconds. What a luxury that would be in order to a cushion for him to make his stop and come back out in front of Michael Schumacher.
And Coulthard does have enough fuel for at least another lap, and Barrichello is in the pits. He's the dark horse of this race for me, James. What kind of stop can Barrichello have? Here we are now watching that, and it's all about the fuel hose now. The tyres are on. Look, no, the right front, a problem with the right front.
Oh, so, what a tragedy for Rubens Barrichello. He was just 7.1 seconds behind David Coulthard, and once again in France, the number 2 Ferrari has problems in the pit stop. This time last year, the Ferrari mechanics got the wrong tyres for Eddie Irvine, the number 2 Ferrari guy, and once again Rubens Barrichello comes off worse. But what about Coulthard? Look at this pace.
Yes, well, it seems like Ferrari often choose when to make their pit stops better than McLaren, but you have to say they do make more mistakes on those pit stops. So Ferrari having a drama, but McLaren have got to cut the mustard yet on David Coulthard's car. You're on board with Eddie Irvine. In first gear, it says. I would think he was already long in first gear. It looked like quite a long stop.
So as Irvine exits the pits, I can tell you that Michael Schumacher last time by was 15.5 seconds behind David Coulthard. So Coulthard, I think, needs about 21 seconds, so it's going to be very touch and go.
Well, we know for sure this is Coulthard's final stop when he has to come in. Now look, does he go in the pit lane? Yes, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He was pointing at it. It didn't go in. So Coulthard has got yet another opportunity to eke out an advantage. He's on low fuel now. He should be making well over a second a lap advantage.
I've actually misread the screens, Martin. I apologise. It's 22 seconds Schumacher is behind Coulthard. He's 15.5 behind Rubens Barrichello. So that's pretty much the window that David needs. I reckon it's about 21 seconds. It's going to be very, very tight when he makes his second stop. But I think Coulthard, barring any misfortune, should be able to get out in front.
And Barrichello, of course, will have to see how the computer works itself out. I think Barrichello will stay in 4th place, but much, much further away. Remember that terrible stop when the right front wheel. Barrichello goes over the line now. He's 9 seconds behind Häkkinen, so he couldn't make any advantage. The first 4 stay the same. Has Coulthard got enough of a lead? Michael Schumacher's got a pretty hot pace on a new set of tyres, a 120.6, but Coulthard's still 6/10 up. This is crucial. McLaren are out in the pit lane. This is a Grand Prix winning pit stop coming up if they can get it absolutely right.
David Coulthard has done everything that could have been asked of him on the racetrack. Now will the mechanics do everything that's asked of them in the pit lane? This is the stop which will decide the outcome of this French Grand Prix, although I'm sure there's still some racing to be had out on the track as well. But as we watch Mika Häkkinen, David Coulthard is coming down and closing in on his second and final stop. He's in the pit lane now, and we're cutting to him. Here he is, David Coulthard, the race leader. He has 23.3 seconds lead over Michael Schumacher in second place as he comes to a stop, and the fuel hose goes on. Forklift is the name of the guy who's applying that fuel hose. A terrific guy, a very experienced man. Brilliant pit work by the McLaren crew. 7.5 seconds, the clock stopped late, and that should be enough to give David Coulthard the lead of this race as Schumacher comes to the Elysée corner.
Yes, and look, Coulthard joins the track. He is indeed ahead, but he's got to pick up speed. Michael Schumacher is already up to speed. Coulthard will retain the lead of the French Grand Prix, but I don't think Michael Schumacher will be very far behind by the time they get down to Adelaide, but far enough, I suspect.
Amazing pit work there by the McLaren team. They cannot be praised highly enough. David Coulthard did a fantastic job getting past Michael Schumacher on the racetrack, and what a great job by the pit crew. So Coulthard leads from Michael Schumacher, then it's Mika Häkkinen, Rubens Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher's 5th, and Jacques Villeneuve is in 6th place. Welcome back to the French Grand Prix at Magny-Cours. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you. You've missed nothing significant during the break. David Coulthard leads the race, looking for his third Grand Prix victory of the 2000 season, looking to close the gap between himself and Michael Schumacher in the World Championship. It was 22 points when he started this race. It's currently going to be 16 if they finish this way. He needs Mika Häkkinen to get ahead of Schumacher as well to give himself a real fighting chance. The top 10 is Coulthard, Schumacher, Häkkinen is third, fourth is Barrichello, fifth Villeneuve, sixth Jarno Trulli, 7th Frentzen, 8th Ralf Schumacher, 9th Jenson Button and 10th Giancarlo Fisichella.
Well, remember, Olivier Panis, the test driver for McLaren, said Coulthard was air testing last week and he left the circuit very, very strong. And I do know that David Kenway said, I've never felt as good, and my car's never felt as good as it has around this track during the test. And every time he's been on the racetrack, he's been the top man this weekend. And remember, he was scampering off into the lead last year here when the fuel pump broke. So Coulthard does appear to have good solid pace around here. And at the moment, he just took 1.1 seconds out of Michael Schumacher's lead on a 19.9. So Schumacher still doesn't have any pace, even though he's changed his tyres.
You're watching Ralf Schumacher carving his way through back markers. It's been another good performance today from Ralf Schumacher in the Williams. You're on board now with Jean Alesi.
Yes, Alesi heading down to the Imola chicane. He's way down in 15th place after he got tagged by his teammate earlier on and had a spin in the Adelaide hairpin. Started 18th in this race, a disastrous weekend for Alesi in particular and Prost in general. And look, he just can't get on the power at all, and it almost seems pedestrian compared to when we're on board with the leaders.
So Coulthard enjoying a 5.4 second lead over Michael Schumacher. Schumacher, as you say, Martin, almost a second and a half slower on that last lap. And here's the man you've got to watch out for now, Mika Häkkinen, the world champion, the two-time world champion, who recently has been struggling to find his form. It's been 5 races since he stuck the car on pole position, and well, he's never won the French Grand Prix. He doesn't look like he's going to do it today. He's had 6 consecutive points finishes, and he needs to get ahead of Schumacher now.
Häkkinen there at some point has jumped across the chicane at turn 7, which is the Nürburgring chicane, and they'll be looking at that. I don't think he made any advantage. He certainly didn't pass anybody, and I don't think he prevented somebody else from passing him. And as he came out, he put his hand up in the air as much to say, I'm slowing down, I'm definitely slowing down, don't penalise me. So Häkkinen there, as several other cars have done during this Grand Prix, jumping across the chicane, flying through the air, and but I think he might just get away with it.
This is the battle for 8th place. Jenson Button is on the move against Heinz-Harald Frentzen. It's been remarkable how few retirements we've had so far today. I think only 5 retirements. Alex Bird's accident was the last one. In fact, most of the retirements today would appear to have been accidents. It's been a very, very low attrition rate. We've still got 16 cars running on the track. So here is Button attacking Frentzen. Needs to put up a good performance today, Jenson Button.
And I think he has done, really. I think he's been very solid there in the second half of the top 10. But whenever he's had clear air, he's simply cruised up to the back of the car in front. And I'd say a solid run as the Jordan locks up its right front. But he was already committed to the apex, so no way through for Jenson. There's certainly no way through at turn 1. He's got to be patient here and position his car nicely, make sure he gets to the inside of turn 3 as early as possible. And you see the car's walked out, he's had to get out of the throttle. He's fighting the car all the way through the corner. He was too anxious there. He should have just bided his time and committed his car to the white line on the inside and then had a go down this next straight. Instead, look, he's fallen back.
When he was in Formula 3, he had a reputation for being a very aggressive, feisty passer. He was the Michael Schumacher of Formula 3 last year. I saw him race in the Macau Grand Prix, which is a blue ribbon event for the young guys at the end of the season, and he was absolutely electric up there, passing everything on the left and on the right. I asked him when he came into the Formula 1 this year whether he thought he'd be able to do the same thing. He said, I see no reason why not, but I think he's been learning the hard way. And in Formula 1, it's much more difficult to overtake than it is in the junior Formulae. You've got this tremendous aerodynamic effect of the car in front. You've got to be super aggressive, as we saw from David Coulthard when he passed Michael Schumacher. It is not easy to pass in Formula 1. After all, if it was easy, we'd all be doing it.
Yes, and that's Häkkinen finding it's not easy at all to pass. He's just over a second behind Michael Schumacher. Now remember, earlier on in the race, Schumacher got off to a good start. Barrichello somehow leapt past Coulthard, and it ran very much like that with Häkkinen in 4th place. Coulthard making a good move at the hairpin on Barrichello for 2nd, catching Schumacher up, having a couple of dust-ups with him, and then taking the lead. McLaren with some fine pit stops. Barrichello losing out heavily with a bad pit stop. He's now still 9.5 seconds down on third place Häkkinen that you're looking at now. But Michael Schumacher is still struggling for pace in that Ferrari, losing about a second a lap to the runaway race leader, David Coulthard.
Yes, and Häkkinen seems to be keeping very much nicely in touch with Schumacher. We've got an incident down at the hairpin. It looks like Alesi having his second spin of the day with one of the two Minardis, which must be Marc Gené. So Alesi and Gené, that was a battle for 15th place. What an ignominious way to go for a man like Jean Alesi with 31 podiums to his name, just to be nerfed by Marc Gené in a Minardi.
Yes, but when we were on board with Alesi, remember, he really was just cruising. He looked like he lost total interest in this race, which is why he's fighting with Gené for last place. But Häkkinen still then a little bit closer. As you can see, 20 laps to go. He's got 20 opportunities really into that hairpin. You've got to assume that he's got a similar setup to Coulthard, and therefore his McLaren is good under braking. Didn't look like it in there, did it? He never did quite make the line into 180.
So David Coulthard sitting very pretty at the front, 8 seconds now ahead of Michael Schumacher, with Häkkinen, as you can see, holding station behind. Rubens is Barrichello is 4th. Jacques Villeneuve doing superbly well. We haven't seen him, but he's going brilliantly in 5th place in the BAR, and Ralf Schumacher is in 6th place. We'll be back in a couple of moments. The French Grand Prix at Magny-Cours. David Coulthard is leading from Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen.
And this happened while you're away. Ralf Schumacher taking over 6th place from Jarno Trulli, slicing up the inside. Trulli didn't really defend in an aggressive way. It's a short replay, that one, but and didn't have a go on the way out. Ralf Schumacher now catching very quickly Jacques Villeneuve in 5th place.
Not often you see Michael Schumacher fading during the course of a race. I'm absolutely certain it's nothing to do with his physical condition, but Mika Häkkinen now is in a position to do to him what David Coulthard did to him about 20 laps ago.
Yes, I don't know whether Coulthard had traffic on the last lap or whether they'd told him to slow. Whatever, it wasn't a great lap for Coulthard, a 22.2. And you're going to see Barrichello. This is a replay, but it's the first time we've seen it. Barrichello in the last chicane, taking the easy way out, and no damage there to the front wing. Häkkinen now attacking, but not close enough to Michael Schumacher. I wonder why Coulthard had a slow lap the time before. Sometimes they say to you, cool it, you're pulling away, you're 8 seconds in the lead, and you back off what you think's a little bit. Next time around, you've lost 1.5 seconds.
Now let's talk about team tactics, Martin. At the Japanese Grand Prix last year, Michael Schumacher needed to win the race for Eddie Irvine to win the World Championship. He didn't do it. Right now, Mika Häkkinen needs to get ahead of Michael Schumacher to have a chance himself of a World Championship. But more importantly, if he does that, he really hands the initiative to David Coulthard. His lead will be 14 points over Michael Schumacher, and then I think we're going to get into some team tactics situations. We'll talk about that in a moment. We've got a replay right here of one of the Saubers going straight on, and it was Pedro Diniz, in fact. What about these team tactics, though, Martin? I mean, Häkkinen, is he going to be told?
No, I think he'll be left to work that one out for himself. He's got to get past that Ferrari. Certainly, Coulthard gave Häkkinen a big dollop of helping to his '98 World Championship, particularly, and but at the moment, Häkkinen's thinking only of his World Championship, and understandably so. Louise has got something to tell us.
Yeah, just a note on the contrasting moves down here in the pit lane, Martin. Obviously very subdued at Ferrari. They watched their man Schumacher overhauled by Coulthard. No obvious explanation that they'll give me anyway for Michael's lack of pace. Rubens paid a heavy penalty for that problem in the pit stop. That was a cross-threaded nut. In contrast, the tension is really building at Ferrari. The boys sitting watching the race in the garage, they know as well as Coulthard knows that it's critical to get a good result today in order to keep their championships hopes alive. So far, it's all going according to plan, but there's a way to go yet.
Well, I don't think it's quite according to plan, because Coulthard is still edging away at 1 second a lap. So whatever, I guess it was passing of traffic, and now we see Coulthard coming up to lap. I think it's Jenson Button who is still squabbling with Frentzen over 8th and 9th place. So that demonstrates the kind of power and speed that Coulthard and that McLaren have had through this afternoon.
Yes, it's really quite impressive performance by David Coulthard. He said no more Mr. Nice Guy when he came into the 2000 season, and well, certainly some cynics scoffed and said you can't reinvent yourself over the course of a winter, as Häkkinen closes right up now onto Michael Schumacher. We've got 2 slower cars in front, and Häkkinen gets good grip out of the Lycée. Schumacher, look at him, he's looking in the mirrors more than he's looking forwards.
Yes, Schumacher there ducking around the back markers, but Schumacher is on the defensive, isn't he? He's had to drive all over the road this afternoon to constantly defend his position. He has no grip. You can see him just almost at all times on the track. His grip has faded away. The Ferrari clearly uses its tyres in a harder way than the McLaren, and in the second half of each stint, Michael Schumacher has been struggling, and he lost 1.9 seconds on the last lap to leader David Coulthard as they've been negotiating through the back markers. And as I said, I think a key element of Coulthard's race so far is he's been very decisive through the back markers, and it's given him the opportunities then later on to make the moves when they were available to him.
A tear-off strip comes off from Mika Häkkinen's visor, and he's focusing his efforts on the back of Michael Schumacher's car. They put these plastic strips on their visors so the oil gets collected on it. They can rip it off and get a clear field of vision. We've got 15 laps to go in which Mika Häkkinen has to try to get past Michael Schumacher, and well, once we get that underway, we'll also start answering all sorts of questions about team orders beyond here. Do McLaren put all their eggs in the Coulthard basket after this? Do they make him the point man to go after the World Championship? Is Mika Häkkinen going to be passing Michael Schumacher in vain in terms of his own championship aspirations? All these questions will no doubt come out at the end of this race, and David Coulthard goes serenely on, 10.3 seconds clear of Michael Schumacher, with Häkkinen right in his trail.
Yes, I was listening to the engine note of the cars as you were explaining that, James, and Michael Schumacher can barely touch the throttle until he builds up some speed and some downforce, and he is clearly lacking some mechanical grip. But I don't know, somehow or other, Häkkinen never seems to be the one having a go, but he's got to have a go this afternoon. He was strong, and Michael Schumacher makes a mistake. He's locked his rear wheels, under braking into the hairpin. He's been slow there all day, and Michael Schumacher, that's unusual, makes a mistake, and it was so easy for Häkkinen in the end.
Well, sheer joy, as you can see in the McLaren garage. They're certainly keeping their enthusiasm under control. I think they've probably got absolutely everything crossed. They desperately need a 1-2, as we said, going into this race, and right now they've got one. Absolutely extraordinary mistake by Michael Schumacher, who has got a problem of some sort. He's slowing right down. You can see at the back of your picture there. We don't know what it is. It could be, it's probably something to do with the engine or the transmission, because it certainly isn't a brake issue, obviously.
Bad news for Ferrari, good news for this year's World Championship. Michael Schumacher is slowing. Now we got blue smoke, so he is out of the race, of course, just on time as well, and he's taking the shortcut. And what are you doing, Michael? he's going to have to get off the road. He's trying to stay off the racing line. He's trying to recover to the pit, and that's smart thinking from Michael. That's very generous of him, and realised he may be dropping oil. Took to the grass, and Michael Schumacher retires from the 2000 French Grand Prix,
which blows the World Championship wide open going into this race. Michael Schumacher had 56 points to David Coulthard's 34. If they stay like this, it'll be 56 to 44. Just 12 points in it between the two of them, and then surely, Martin, we're going to start seeing some team orders from McLaren.
Yes, well, we'll have to wait and see, but Coulthard now with a 12.4 second lead, and look, Michael and Hakkinen having a look. Michael's, I guess it must be a gearbox problem also. I mean, Michael already looking around, and it just, I think it threw it into gear and just locked the rear wheels. It wasn't as if he braked too late. He clearly already had a problem as he was heading down that back straight, and that elevates Barrichello up into third place, and Hakkinen and Coulthard, 2 McLarens ahead of him.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the thing that put Rubens Barrichello out at Silverstone. He did a very similar thing in the Woodcote corner. We all thought that he'd made a mistake, but in fact it was something to do with the gear ratios, the hydraulics. They had a problem with that car. It's the second time for Rubens, and it looks like it could be the same problem for Michael today. As he walks back, he's got a fairly firm look on his face, but well, 10 points again gone today. Well, not 10 points, sorry, 6 points gone today. 10 points lost in Monaco. These lost points are starting to notch up for Michael Schumacher.
He's had such an incredible run of reliability, though. I don't think he can complain too much. But remember, Coulthard's car could barely make it onto the track through Friday and Saturday morning. So he's still got another 12 laps to do, including this one. David Coulthard leading by 12.9 seconds from teammate Mika Hakkinen. Rubens Barrichello a further 8.4 seconds behind. Villeneuve having a quiet day, but a good day in 5th. Ralf Schumacher still can't quite catch him. And there you saw the back end of Michael's car stepping out of line, and he is already struggling in this race. And it was oh so easy for Mika Hakkinen to take over that second place. And as we watch them head off, look, Michael not defending at all, just struggling through the corner. We're going to take a quick break.
Back live at the French Grand Prix, and you are watching Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and he has got the attentions of Jenson Button to consider now. This is a battle for 7th place, and you can see that Button is being very aggressive as we enter the closing stages of this race now. This is lap 63 of this 72-lap race. Coulthard leading from Hakkinen, Barrichello 3rd, Villeneuve promoted to 4th by the retirement of Michael Schumacher. 5th is Ralf Schumacher, as you can see. 6th is Jarno Trulli, 7th Frentzen, and 8th Jenson Button. What a terrific motor race so far, and it looks like there's still more to come.
Yes, this is a three-way fight, actually. Don't count out Fisichella, although it's for 7th, 8th and 9th. That's the kind of frantic action there is. You never know. Just in the closing stages, there's still a chance you can pick up a World Championship point or two. Eddie Irvine, the only Jaguar still running, down there in 12th place. A dreadful afternoon for Jaguar, although Irvine now finally seems to have found some pace. He's the fastest man on the racetrack. Earlier on, they were full 2.5 seconds a lap off the pace. But this is the fight for 4th place. Jacques Villeneuve, and just 9/10 of a second behind Ralf Schumacher, the Williams BMW team leader. And well, he caught up reasonably quickly to Villeneuve, but hasn't made much impression now he's arrived on the scene.
Ralf has had a terrific day. Well, both of these two guys have had a terrific day, and well, it would be unkind for either of them to lose out towards the end, but that's motor racing, and certainly Ralf Schumacher certainly has clear intentions of getting that 4th place away from Jacques Villeneuve. It's been a while since Ralf Schumacher has scored himself any points, 3 races in fact.
And Ralf just touching the back there, James, while you were looking out of the window. Ralf just touching the back of Villeneuve's car there, coming into the last corner. And never going to be an overtaking opportunity, but Villeneuve extremely slow through there. Ralf lucky not to lose his nose. It's been confirmed, actually, it wasn't a hydraulic problem on the Ferrari. It was indeed a blown engine. So whether Michael had got a bit of oil coming out of the back of it as he turned into the hairpin, he certainly lost the back end in a hurry. Looked to me like it still was a downshift problem rather than a driver outbraking himself. But still the fight goes on for 4th place. Villeneuve and Ralf Schumacher. Michael Schumacher out of the race with a blown engine.
Yes, this is the scrap for 4th place, and you can see these bits of tyres now. They call them marbles that are starting to form up on the side of the road, as once again Ralf Schumacher seems to close up very nicely, under braking for that 180 corner, and accelerating out 130 miles an hour as they make their way up towards the Imola, the very, very fast chicane. It really is breathtaking how quickly they go through this chicane, about 135 miles an hour through it. Just the change of direction of these Formula 1 cars, simply sensational. And Ralf just seems to have the little bit of edge at the moment. That BAR doesn't seem to quite have the legs.
Well, Ralph's got the same facilities, i.e. a car that he can brake extremely late in, just like Jenson Button has behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen fighting for 7th, but they just can't seem to make it stick. Maybe they can't get through turn 3 fast enough. They certainly don't have an excess of straight line speed. So both the Williams, I think, handling extremely well, tucked up behind slower cars.
Coulthard leading then by 15 seconds from Hakkinen and Barrichello 4th. This is the battle. Barrichello 3rd. This is the battle for 4th place between Villeneuve and Ralf Schumacher, both of them needing points-paying positions today. And BAR started out the season very strongly, got points in the first Grand Prix in Australia, and since then it's fair to say that Villeneuve has not had the happiest of times. He hasn't scored any points now for 5 races. He looked quite good in Canada, qualified up in 7th place, and certainly looked as though he was going to get some points, but failed once again. Meanwhile, Ralf not scored for 3, so which of these two is going to come out on top?
Now, this is a good idea of just how much grip they lose during the Grand Prix as the tyres wear away. Last week, when they were running on the tanks, they were in the 1-minute 16s and 17s on a test circuit when it was quite a bit cooler at certain times. Now they're in the 1-minute 22s, a full 6 seconds a lap slower. And, well, a Formula 1 car goes an awful long way in 6 seconds, but that's why that just demonstrates to you how much they're struggling for mechanical grip out there.
No sign of the rain which some people forecast earlier in the day. It's still a sunny day. The clouds are coming over. The track temperature has dropped a little bit as the Jordan locks up a wheel. Heinz-Harald Frentzen still being attacked by Jenson Button, and Button obviously putting a lot of pressure on Frentzen because Frentzen's starting to make some mistakes, I think. Yeah,
solid day for Jenson Button. He's had 3 or 4 pretty lackluster weekends recently, but I would say this is one of his strongest performances of the year, and very, very timely too. But still, he can't get past that Jordan, even though, without doubt, he's in a faster car, faster package. And the real sad thing about this, Martin, it's been a terrific scrap throughout the race between Frentzen and Button, but look at it, it's just for 7th place. This isn't for a points-paying position. Of course, one of the cars in front may well retire, but all this effort just for no points at all. Nothing to show for it. You'd rather finish nowhere than 7th, but you know, remember, Jenson Button made a great move, I think it was on Verstappen, in the Brazilian Grand Prix to take 7th place. Later on, Coulthard's thrown out of the race in the McLaren for a technicality, and Button ends up picking up his first World Championship point, so he just can never give up. You mentioned that disqualification of Coulthard's in Brazil, of course. He was 2nd in that race. If he'd been able to keep those points, he would have been, if he wins this race today, just 6 points behind Michael Schumacher.
at this stage in the World Championship. Obviously the 6 points were taken away from him, so he'll be 12 points behind Michael Schumacher if he can hold on, and he's just got 6 more laps to do in this French Grand Prix. And well, he may well look back at Brazil, he may well look back also at Canada, where he stalled on the grid, as 2 opportunities. Without those 2 things, he would be right with Michael, and it would be game on for the championship.
As Murray would say, if is F1 spelt backwards, but yes, I do believe Coulthard was robbed. It's my personal view of those points in Brazil, but you have to say he gave them away on the start line in Canada. Whatever the reasons, he stalled the engine and gave away a solid 6. It may have cost him as much as 14 points. I think he could have won that race. I think in the race it would be similar to today. He had some good pace in a race setup, and of course Michael went on to get the full 10, whereas he may have only got 6, and David got absolutely 0. So it cost him very dearly, but there's still 9 races, including today, to turn that around.
Well, I was going to say that's enough for looking backwards. Let's look forwards, because we've still got a championship on our hands here, very much alive. David Coulthard is taking the fight to the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. It looks like these 2 are going to be the 2 main championship contenders. We haven't had a British championship contender, of course, since Damon Hill, but David Coulthard certainly has stepped up and is making himself known.
And every time Coulthard was anywhere, I thought it was a bit over the top personally. Rab C. Coulthard, every time he got anywhere near Michael Schumacher, he felt the need to gesticulate and run into him. He wasn't satisfied with just passing him. He had to sort of have a go at him as well and say, take that, and next time I'm here, it'll be even worse. I think psychologically, it's a smart move.
So at the front, Coulthard leading by 16.5 seconds now from Mika Häkkinen, who was as little as 1 or 2 seconds behind him earlier on, but he seems to have dropped back a little bit now, Häkkinen. Content, I think, to finish second, and for sure the McLaren team will tell them to hold station. There's absolutely no need for either of them to catch up. Barrichello, you're looking at now on the screen, of course, caught right up to his team leader Michael Schumacher in the closing stages of the Canadian Grand Prix, and was told in no uncertain terms not to pass his team leader. Michael, of course, suffering at the time from a brake problem.
Yes, a good drive, a solid drive from Rubens again today, but you can't say sparkling, can you? It was good, but he was always on the defensive, and his pace has been, you know, only where it really should be in that car. It's nothing exceptional, and Rubens, I think, he's in 3rd place, but he's 30 seconds behind Coulthard, and I think he'll wish he'd have got a little bit better setup and been able to stay up with those leading pack to get his first chance of a Grand Prix win.
But the guy I want to talk about is right here, Jacques Villeneuve. He's locking up a wheel there. He's under all kinds of pressure from Ralf Schumacher, but what a superb performance from him today in the British American Racing Honda. They came here really under a cloud this weekend with the news that they no longer had exclusivity from next year onwards with the Honda Works engines. Jordan would be having them for the next 5 years. A real slap in the face for everybody at the British American Racing team, and yet Villeneuve qualified 7th. He's running 4th on the road. A terrific drive from him, and this will give enormous confidence to all the boys back at Brackley. They've taken such a panning in the press over the last year when they came out big saying, we're going to win our first race, we're going to rewrite the rules, and they did appallingly last year, didn't score a single point. And now this year they started well in Australia, faded a little bit recently, and now Villeneuve is on his way to 4th place and 3 very well-earned championship points, as long as he doesn't lock up his tyres too much and let Ralf Schumacher in.
Yes, I think BAR will be looking inwards and not outwards. They're also saying, of course, Honda are helping them with the chassis, and I think they're still on the ascendancy as a team. So I don't think they'll be too worried about the Jordan news in that respect. They've got to sort a few things out in-house first, but you know, once again, Villeneuve was a reasonable player in Canada, to say the least, and until they got wrong-footed on a tyre choice. Had he have pitted 1 lap later, Villeneuve would have been a major player in Canada with if he'd have put the wets on. Louise, what can you tell us?
That tension I was talking about at McLaren earlier on, believe me, it's all gone. They're laughing, they're smiling. In fact, they've asked me to tell you, James, would you like to stay up there in the commentary position, because they like the results that they get when I'm down in the garage a lot better.
Well, I won't even begin to answer that question, Louise. We've got 3 laps to go at the end of this French Grand Prix, and I think the main question now is, can Villeneuve keep away Ralf Schumacher?
Eddie Irvine just flashing in the pits for his 4th stop of the afternoon, down there in 11th place. A dismal weekend for Jaguar, unfortunately. So Irvine, yet more problems. We don't know what they are. We haven't cut to him, and there you see him just departing. So 4 stops for him. Johnny Herbert out of the race somewhat earlier, in fact the 2nd car to retire on 20 laps into the race.
Yeah, we should just run through the retirements. The first to go was Ricardo Zonta in the BAR. We saw him going off the track on his own. Johnny Herbert, we saw being wheeled into the pit lane. Jos Verstappen, his car stopped at the end of the pit lane. Mazzacani made a mistake, Wirtz made a mistake, De La Rosa, we don't know what happened to him, but he went out on lap 25, and Michael Schumacher, of course, the engine blew. So 15 cars still running, and it's been a very low attrition rate afternoon. Despite the temperature, it's dropped a little bit now. It's 33 degrees track temperature and 30 degrees air temperature. Still warm enough, and you're on board with Rubens Barrichello. 2 laps to go.
Listen, he's even downshifting in the middle of the corner. He's got no grip. He's really struggling. I mean, you're normally on the power there. Rubens was having to make another downshift. He had so little grip. And Häkkinen now some 15 seconds down the road from third place man Barrichello, and approximately 15 seconds behind his teammate Coulthard. And Coulthard has had the legs on Häkkinen all through the practices, qualifying and through the race. So it doesn't come as any surprise around here today, but Coulthard certainly does appear to have his car hooked up nicely.
Well, he's had the legs on Häkkinen for the last 3 races, I think it's fair to say. I mean, Coulthard really has had the bit between his teeth. That superb victory in Monaco. Of course, looking back a little further, the victory as well in the British Grand Prix for David Coulthard. And
well, Coulthard moves into the final lap, and there's 2 critical things today. Coulthard will, if he wins this race at the end of this lap, he's beaten Michael Schumacher in a straight fight. And then, to add as a major bonus, Schumacher has dropped out of the race. So stunning day for Coulthard, dream ticket, and also then Häkkinen following him up in second place.
He's not just beaten Michael Schumacher though, Martin, he's also beaten Mika Häkkinen, his teammate, which is something that a lot of people last season said would not happen. But David Coulthard reinvented himself over the winter. And I remember he was talking earlier in the season and saying, you know, I'm not such a nice guy. I want to win races. After the British Grand Prix, he said it. I want to pass people. I want to be aggressive. As Eddie Irvine tries to be a hero, a little bit of showboating on the last lap, knowing that the cameras are following David Coulthard. Absolutely no point in him trying to get past him.
Well, David, of course, cruising to the finish line. Eddie on a fresh set of tyres, enjoying himself. But don't run into the back of Coulthard. Eddie will not be Mr. Popular in the UK on that one. But David now just a few corners from home.
Yes, David Coulthard in the final sector of the final lap of the 2000 French Grand Prix. He's heading for his 3rd Grand Prix victory of the season, a victory which will take him to within 12 points of Michael Schumacher in the World Championship. David Coulthard wins the French Grand Prix for McLaren, a 1-2 that they so badly needed from Mika Häkkinen, who now comes down some 14.7 seconds behind him. A superb day for the boys from Woking, and the guys in grey, Mercedes-Benz too, a superb job from all of them. Ferrari go away to lick their wounds. Michael Schumacher goes away with no points. Rubens Barrichello will go away with 4 points. A terrific race right the way through the field as Rubens comes through to finish the lap. A great performance by Villeneuve, a great performance by Ralf Schumacher. Frentzen, Trulli, Button have all been huge today, but the hugest of all has been David Coulthard.
Yes, Coulthard there, he doesn't show too much emotion, but for him, he was shaking his fist and going crazy as he passed his management and mechanics on the start-finish line there. And Villeneuve now looking like he's got a bit of space. He's going to take that 4th place. He's a minute behind the leaders, but the winning management team there, Norbert Hauger, Mercedes-Benz, Ron Dennisov, the McLaren team are already celebrating. Their man is a minute down the road as Villeneuve goes over the line.
Yes, more points for British American Racing, and well done to everyone at Brackley. I'm sure you'll take enormous confidence from that. Ron Dennis there on the left, Adrian Newey, the designer of the car, as Ralf Schumacher crosses the line to claim 5th place, and Jarno Trulli, we're waiting for him in 6th. 7th, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, 8th, Jenson Button, 9th, Giancarlo Fisichella, and 10th, Mika Salo. Well, we've got some big sport coming up later this evening on ITV with the European 2000 Soccer Championships, Italy versus France. We've had some fantastic sport here today at Magny-Cours in France, and David Coulthard has closed up to within 12 points in the World Championship of Michael Schumacher. 56 points to Schumacher and 44 to Coulthard. Häkkinen on 38 is just 6 points clear of his teammate, and Rubens Barrichello, of course, in 4th on 32 points. The big question marks after this, of course, Martin, will be, is this the point at which Ron Dennis of McLaren tells the team that it's going to be David Coulthard now who has to chase after Schumacher in the championship? They can't afford for Häkkinen and Coulthard to take points off each other from here on in. So that's the big question mark coming away from here. I don't expect you to answer it for me, but I know it'll be the one that the press are looking at tomorrow, and it'll certainly be the one foremost in the mind of David Coulthard once he's got over the sheer joy of winning his 3rd Grand Prix of the season.
Well, as the man who negotiates David Coulthard's contracts, I would like to claim the 5th Amendment on that one, but certainly it's a question that's got to be asked. Whether the points difference is enough at this stage, it's just 6. but clearly if they're going to beat Michael Schumacher, they're going to have to gang up on him. But David Coulthard softened him up a little bit today, didn't he?
He certainly did. Schumacher led from the start. Coulthard was stuck behind Rubens Barrichello. It was a 1-2 for Ferrari in the early stages, but Coulthard stuck with it. He got ahead of Barrichello, and then in a heroic move, which I'm sure we will see many, many times again in the future, he outbraked Michael Schumacher to take the lead of the race. And just look how happy he is as he comes into Parc Fermé. His girlfriend, Heidi Wichlinski, his fiancée, I should say, will be waiting there for him, along with Dave Ryan, who runs the race effort for him at McLaren. There are all his mechanics. They're absolutely ecstatic. They've seen Häkkinen celebrate so many times with his mechanics in the past. This is their time now.
If Heidi's here, they should put her in the car for the next race, because she started this race in Monaco, but she's there today. She's not at the racetrack. But David Coulthard there shaking hands with his team, and so many of those team players at McLaren have been there many, many years. They're a very loyal bunch, and they're certainly getting fine reward today. Andy Matthews there, David's trainer, the man that went down with David and Heidi in that plane crash. But since then, and even before then really, David has upped his game and set himself a new target, and it's certainly paying dividends.
It certainly is. What an amazing day for David Coulthard, and let's hope there are many, many more. And down in the pit lane, Louise has Ross Brawn, who no doubt is not terribly happy.
Ross, you had a dream start to the race, but it ended up being a bit of a nightmare for Michael.
Yes, the tyres for us weren't lasting very well, and once we get 10 laps into each set of tyres, the degradation was getting very high. So then it became difficult for us to compete, and we were trying to adopt strategies that might keep McLaren's behind, but obviously we didn't manage to do that.
How big a loss is today's race for you in terms of the championship?
Well, it's 10 points. So, no, it's not it's a disappointment, but we're in the middle of the season. So there's a lot more to fight for.
The fight very much still alive from your point of view?
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah. We won't give up.
Thanks, Ross.
Well, nor should he give up. He's still sitting on top of both championships. Let's not lose sight of that. Schumacher's still on top of the drivers, and in the constructors, Ferrari have 88 points. McLaren have really closed the gap, though, today with this 1-2. They're 82 points in the constructors. Benetton still holding on to third place, Williams in fourth, and Jordan in fifth. And a good day, really, from all of these teams. It really has been a superb French Grand Prix. Really, really enjoyed it. Terrific racing on the track. Fantastic pit work by the pit crews. Great driving by all the drivers, but most of all, great driving by this man. 29-year-old David Coulthard from Twineholme in Scotland. I know his parents up there will be watching this race, and I know they will be feeling a very intense sense of joy at the moment, because their boy is really mounting the beginnings of a championship challenge here, and he's closing the gap on Michael Schumacher. Where will it all end? Well, you can see it all here, of course, on ITV right the way through to the end of the season, and this championship will run and run with no doubt whatsoever.
Tough racetrack here, and Mika Häkkinen showing all the signs of having completed 72 laps of a very hot Manicourt. Barrichello too. The crowd, too much for them to cheer for on the French side today. Jean Lacey finishing last but one. The Prost team having a poor race, but the Sol tyre is in the sky.
David Coulthard just having a word with the race director there, Charlie Whiting, the man who makes all the decisions, of course, regarding starts and finishes and penalties and such like. McLaren boys clapping as the rest of the finishers come in. Jenson Button and his teammate Ralf Schumacher. Jenson finishing in 8th today. Ralf finishing in 5th place. There's the back of Jarno Trulli, who finished in a points-paying position as well in 6th. Frentzen, his teammate, missed out. And Martin, this was the decisive moment.
Yes, I think this is David overtaking Barrichello to take 2nd place earlier in the race, and a very smart move there from Coulthard. He decided early on he wasn't going to make it, so positioned his car for a good slingshot out of Adelaide, and then he always was going to have track position when they arrived down at the Nürburgring chicane.
And that's what set him up for the ability to attack Michael Schumacher, who by the end of the first stint was really struggling with tyre wear, and that's really, that move on Barrichello was absolutely pivotal at that point in the race, and of course later on a superb move on Schumacher as well.
Yes, as I said at the time, that for me was the critical stage. Could Coulthard maximise on that? And he did. He just homed in on a struggling Michael Schumacher at over a second a lap, which put him in a position then to be near after the pit stops and have that big go, couple of goes at Michael Schumacher. It all got a bit scrappy, but it worked out for Coulthard in the end, and one of his best mates there, Jacques Villeneuve, who's also had a good day in 4th place. Wishing the two, well, they're all Monegasque residents actually in view there.
Rubens Barrichello picking up his 4th podium of the season as well. We shouldn't forget about Rubens. He seems to have been the bridesmaid this season, as many people predicted he would be at Ferrari. Plenty of Ferrari flags waving in the grandstands here in Magny-Cours in the centre of France. Plenty of Finnish flags as well. Not too many Scottish ones at the moment, but I'm sure they'll be flying high. Here's the start again, and it really was an amazing start. Michael Schumacher cutting right across on David Coulthard, who took a central position. Barrichello going around the outside of him, and it was that shot by Schumacher that really harmed Coulthard and gave Barrichello the initiative.
Yeah, the Schumacher chop is getting a bit, as that was Jenson Button, I think, earlier on in the race. That's a replay of something we didn't actually see, but Eddie Irvine there outbraking himself into 180, but I don't know where all of these replays are coming from or why particularly, but
let's talk about that chop.
Look there, it definitely was two Prosts running into each other.
No question about that.
Benetton was an innocent bystander.
But let's just talk about that chop. You were saying it's becoming a character of Michael Schumacher's starts, and it's been certainly a talking point. Well, let's leave it actually, because let's just enjoy the moment for David Coulthard up on the podium. Lionel Jospin, the Prime Minister of France, of course, up there with him, and David Coulthard wins his 3rd Grand Prix of the 2000 season. And these boys will certainly be enjoying themselves. Mika Häkkinen looks pretty happy in 2nd place. I think it's the best he could have hoped for today. He didn't get a great start. He was 4th in the 1st stint. Rubens Barrichello, of course, in 2nd place in the 1st stint. And now the national anthem. Well, we may not be very good at soccer, and we may get knocked out of soccer tournaments a bit earlier than we'd all like, but we certainly know how to win motor races. David Coulthard wins the French Grand Prix, and Lionel Jospin presents him with a very attractive glass trophy, and he really deserved that today. The best drive I can remember by David Coulthard in a Formula One car, and he certainly had some big days, and certainly most of them have been this year. 2nd place, of course, Mika Häkkinen, the winning constructor, being presented to Adrian Newey, the designer of the car, the man whose cars have won, I think, 7 of the last 9 World Championships. He really is the top man in the world of design. And Alain Bouffier presenting the 2nd place prize to Mika Häkkinen. And the 3rd place driver will get his trophy from Monsieur Regis, president of the French Federal Sporting Association. And an ordinary sort of day for Rubens Barrichello today, but no doubt about who the hero is today, Martin, and that's your man, David Coulthard.
Yes, Coulthard and Häkkinen take the fight back to Ferrari, but is it soon enough, and will it be enough come the end of the season?
Just 12 points in it then between Coulthard and Schumacher in the World Championship. A delighted Scotsman drinks the champagne, and the hope there will be plenty more of it for him.
Thanks very much indeed to James Allen and to Martin Brundle. David Coulthard just had to deliver today, and he did. We'll be hearing his views on the race in a few minutes' time. We'll also be talking to the McLaren technical director. We also saw up there on the podium to Adrian Newey. We're going to have a little natter with a fella called Murray Walker, somewhat reluctant viewer, I'm sure, in Hampshire. That's all when you rejoin us.
Welcome to the top 3 finishers in the 2000 French Grand Prix. David Coulthard, Mika Häkkinen and Rubens Barrichello. David, despite an eventful start, which saw you get stuck behind Rubens, so smooth, so aggressive, so fast, was there ever a moment in that race that you thought you weren't going to win?
Yeah, just after the start, when I dropped down to 3rd place. It's one thing believing you have a quick car, it's another thing finding a way past, and I have to say initially I had a lot of understeer and Rubens was actually quicker, but once the car sort of settled down, then I was able to sort of play to the strengths that I had, which I was very good on the brakes. We ran quite low wing to be good at the end of the straight, to give me the opportunity to get in the inside. And from there, I just felt that I always knew that I had the chance to overtake, and it was just a question of weighing up the risk. And you know, I have to say that in the end, both Rubens and Michael were very fair, hard but fair, and it was a good race.
Tell us a bit more about that first attempt when you tried to overtake Michael at the Adelaide Hairpin. You seemed a bit unhappy about it.
Well, I have to apologise for my hand gestures. That's not at all in keeping with the sport. But as you can understand, probably my emotions are running high. I know to be in a battle, in a position to battle for the championship, I needed to win here today, and that's what I'm trying to get done. And I felt that I had a clean run on Michael on the outside, and equally I felt he drove me wide. Now, you know, you could say, well, he has the right to do that because he has the track position, but I think a deliberate gesture in driving someone wide, that's not his normal line, made me very angry, which is why I gave the unsporting gesture. But there's children watching, so I shouldn't be showing it again. But ultimately, I was able to get the inside later, and although I expected him to close the door again, he realised I was alongside far enough.
And how about strategy in this race? Was it pre-set or did you change mid-race?
We had flexibility and we did adjust it slightly to try and read where we were with traffic and how the car was running, and we had an idea as to what the pace would be before the pit stop and what the pace would be after the pit stop. We also made an adjustment to the car for the balance, and the car was much better after the stop. So to all of my guys who've had an incredible weekend, hard work, to all the mechanics, to my engineers, and to everyone who helps me in the pit wall, I have to say this race was as much about them as it was about me making the manoeuvre, so a great effort from the team.
David, many congratulations. Mika, that seemed to be quite an uneventful race for you, but were you happy with the car?
Yes and no. I mean, I wish I would have been 1 second quicker than anybody else. So there is always a little bit unhappiness with the car. You're never 100% pleased. But the reality is, we were the quickest cars on the track, so I cannot complain too much.
Mm-hmm. You got past Michael with 12 laps to go. Did you try and push David towards the end, or were you told to just ease off a little by the team?
No, because after immediately when I saw Michael going off, well, he had a problem, whatever. I realized David was so far away, and I thought, you know, everything what happened, you know what happened in the start example and the way the race started. I thought, hold on a second, we are first and second here, and I think this is the fabulous situation for the team, and it's no point to start now pushing like mad out there and the risk to myself, a risked car and the risk of points would we are able to get to this race. So I decided to just look how far Rubens is running and driving that pace that way he cannot catch.
Great. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
Rubens, you got ahead of David at the start, but seemed to drop away from Michael quite quickly. Did you have a problem with your car?
No, not at all. I mean, it was just settling on the race and making it easy a little bit for Michael. And basically, I thought at the beginning I could handle it quite well, David behind me. But then after, I don't know, 10, 15 laps, the tires were starting to give up a little bit. And his car was quite fast and quite fast on the straight as well. So then it was quite difficult because he put a lot of pressure on the braking, and I was in difficulties on the braking, and then he overtook me on the exit of the corner.
2 slow pit stops as well. Can you talk us through those?
Well, I mean, the first one was just a slow pit stop. The second one was a problem on the front right wheel. That's
dropped me back 10 seconds from them, because I heard that Mika had a so-so pit stop as well, so I could eventually head past him again. And but today we were not the happiest ones on the pit stop.
Following Michael's retirement, were you told by the pit wall to slow down to preserve your engine gearbox?
Yes. They told me Michael had a failure on the engine, and because I had 35 seconds for Jacques, they told me to back off.
Well done, Rubens.
Thanks.
David, we go to Austria now. You're 6 points ahead of Mika, 12 points behind Michael. How has this race changed the World Championship, in your opinion?
Well, it's put us right back where we were after Monaco, and what I have to make sure, obviously, in Austria, that close the gap further, and it's doable. Obviously, we benefit a little bit from Michael not finishing today, but I'm glad that we were able to pass him on the track and show our pace, and pretty confident going to Austria.
Thanks, David. And now a word from Mika and Rubens in your own languages, please.
Tosi tyytyväinen, vaikka toinen sija onkin ensimmäinen sija, jolla hävitään kilpailu, mutta tyytyväinen siihen, koska tämä viikonloppu kokonaisuudessaan lähti aika vaikeasti käyntiin. Mä en ollut missään vaiheessa oikein tyytyväinen auton balanssiin, ja sitten tänään päivän aamun warm-upin me saatiin hyvä vauhtia autoon. Ja kun kisaan lähdettiin, niin sommat alkoi vaikuttaa aika hyvältä ja menikin aika hyvin sitten se kisa. Ja siinähän tuli Michaelilla tuli hieman ongelmia kisassa ja tietysti helpotti mun sijoitusta. Ja sitten kun puhutaan näistä rengastopeista, niin ne onnistui ihan nappiin, mutta sitten yhdellä kerralla kun mä tulin varikolta ulos, mutta ekan kierroksella lähdin toiselle kierrokselle, niin sitten tuli yksi hidas auto mun eteen tuossa just nopeassa mutkassa, missä mä todennäköisesti menetin jotain ehkä 3-4 sekuntia, joka ehkä vaikutti siihen, että kun David tuli ulos varikolta ja Rubensi, niin ehkä mä olisin päässyt niiden molempien eteen silloin, mutta näin ei käynyt. Mutta ihan tyytyväinen. Kiitos taas kannustuksesta ja jatketaan pari viikon päästä. Moi.
Thank you, Mika and Rubens.
Foi uma corrida até que boa para mim. Eu larguei muito bem, consegui conservar um pouco. Tive que manter um pouco um ritmo para que o Michael tivesse um pouco mais de gap e pudesse abrir um pouco a vantagem, para que ele tivesse essa vantagem nos pit stops. A gente não tinha um carro mais rápido do que o da McLaren hoje, então foi difícil para segurar o David, e depois eu tive 2 pit stops que não foram tão bons, e com isso perdi as 2 posições. Mas no final, acho que com as condições que eu tive, o terceiro não é ruim.
Thank you, Rubens, and well done, gentlemen, and see you in Austria.
Op dat moment de ideale uitgangspositie. Niet helemaal lekker weg, Coulthard. En daar komt ook nog Barrichello aan de rechterkant voorbij. Verstappen pakte meteen al in het begin een plaatsje of 3. Was goed weg. En hier het gevecht tussen de 2 heren van Prost. Wat bijna dus niet goed afliep. Daar Alexander Wurz die aan de binnenkant moet blijven zitten en wordt ingehaald. En hier weer een touché tussen Alesi en Heidfeld. Het gevecht tussen Zonta en Verstappen en dan is het afgelopen voor Ricardo Zonta. Prost denkt er dan het zijne van. Hier vliegt Zonta dan rechtdoor. Dan ziet het definitief uit. Pitstop van Heidfeld laat de motor afslaan. Kijk, het gezicht van Alain Prost is niet blij. Dan het gevecht tussen Coulthard en Schumacher. Aan de binnenkant er voorbij, nadat de eerste poging niet helemaal lukte. Die zien we dus niet meer, waarschijnlijk vanwege dat gebaar. Zo is de Formule 1 dan ook wel weer. Hier hebben de heren van Jordan het met elkaar aan de stok. En dan is het afgelopen. Jammer maar helaas voor Jos Verstappen. Geen punten zoals 2 weken geleden in Canada. Hup, Alesi holde de bol door de grindbak. Reed de race wel uit, werd 14e. En vanaf dat moment was het dus de race van David Coulthard. Pakt in eerste instantie Barrichello. En dan krijgt hij het nu aan de stok met Schumacher. Kijk, hier is dat gebaar dan toch nog. En Schumacher moest er dus alles aan doen om de schot achter zich te houden. Maar het was al duidelijk dat dat een onmogelijke opgave zou worden. Alesi heeft het dan aan de stok met Woods die van de baan gaat. En voor hem lijken de dagen in de Formule 1 echt geteld. Hier de tweede poging bij Schumacher. En nu lukt het Coulthard dus wel. En niet de touché. Prachtig moment. Nou, dan moet Coulthard vervolgens af gaan rekenen met Mika Häkkinen. Dat lukt hier nog wel in de pits. Kijk maar, Häkkinen laat weg. Schumacher komt er dus weer voor. Blijft dan nog even tweede. Dan een probleem rechtsvoor bij Barrichello bij zijn pitstop. Speelt daar kostbare seconden. Dus had hij misschien nog kunnen proberen in het restant van de race om Häkkinen aan te vallen. En dan is het hier straks afgelopen. Dit is nog even Barrichello voor Michael Schumacher. Eerst nog even die andere, Ralf. Touché tussen Alesi en Marc Gené. Het gebeurt allemaal verder in de achterhoede. Hij speelt geen rol van betekenis. Hier nog altijd Häkkinen achter Michael Schumacher. En dan hup, hier eventjes het foutje. Problemen waarschijnlijk met de versnellingsbak. En het gejuich bij McLaren. Want er komt een dubbel aan. En hier dan het definitieve afscheid van Schumacher. Rook uit de rechterkant van de wagen. Onhaarspellende rook. Geen punten vandaag voor Michael Schumacher. En dat maakt dan de weg vrij voor McLaren om 1 en 2 te worden. En de felicitaties van Ron Dennis voor David Coulthard. En hij maakt het succes van McLaren vandaag compleet. Häkkinen. En zo is de spanning in het wereldkampioenschap weer helemaal terug. Want de achterstand van deze man David Coulthard op Michael Schumacher is nog maar 12 punten. En daarachter dan weer 6 puntjes. Häkkinen. Hij heeft er 38, Coulthard 44 en Schumacher 56. En de champagne smaakte dus goed vandaag voor David Coulthard. Volgende afspraak die wij met elkaar hebben is de grote prijs van Oostenrijk over 2 weken. Ik dank u voor het kijken, ook namens mijn collega Jan Lammers. Tot over 2 weken. Dag.
We've had a superb British victory here at Manicourt. David Coulthard winning for McLaren. Mika Häkkinen, the world champion, in second place. Michael Schumacher pulling out. And so David Coulthard's world championship hopes are very much alive and kicking. My personal feeling was if he'd have lost here today, or Michael Schumacher had won, the German would have been away and gone in the World Championship. Tony, we're waiting for the press conference to start. Just give us your upsum of what you've seen.
Well, let's just go. A tremendous performance by Coulthard after all his problems of the weekend. And McLaren, reliability was the big issue for them. Everybody thought that Michael Schumacher was going to go away into the distance. Let's just talk about Michael Schumacher very briefly. That gentleman has not made big noises about the championship. He's refused to talk about statistics of catching up Ayrton Senna. He doesn't want to be engaged in chat about the championship because he says, I've been in this game far too long to start talking like that. Anything can happen to me. We only need 1 failure, 2 failures, they're right up there. Jean Todt himself has said, if McLaren have a second half of the season like we had the first half, we're in trouble. Been on the defensive, they haven't been mouthing it at all, and I think that's the right attitude today. And it's great for us because we've got a superb championship battle in prospect.
Do you agree with me that this was an absolutely pivotal race in the championship?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, because the gap would have got wider and wider.
In the 2000 French Grand Prix. Thanks.
It's doable then, is the word from David Coulthard. The man on your screens at the moment is Adrian Newey, who you saw up on the podium, looking very happy. Hi, Adrian. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. How much pressure was on the whole team to deliver today? Because our feeling was that if it had been Ferrari's day, the championship was almost over the horizon and gone.
Well, it's difficult to say that. Start of 98, we looked very comfortable at the start and Ferrari were struggling, but they gave us a hard run to the end. We felt we'd done a good job in testing, so he came here reasonably confident. Unfortunately for David, we gave him a very rough time in practice, got very little running done the first day. very little run done on Saturday morning, and then had to go in the T-car for his first 2 runs on qualifying. So really, we didn't help him in qualifying. I think he probably should have been on pole, been able to give him a cleaner run, but we weren't.
You'll have heard David apologise for one or two of the gestures he made to Michael Schumacher, but how significant was it from his and your point of view that when they went wheel to wheel, David Coulthard got the better of him?
I think David's proved himself to be a good aggressive overtaker over the years, so I wasn't that surprised when he got past, to be honest. I was confident he would.
We're all wondering now whether team orders are going to come into play, and McLaren will put all their efforts behind David Coulthard in his efforts to become world champion.
I think it's a little early for team orders at the moment. Both drivers are equal number 1. The last 2 years where Mika's been ahead of David, then we haven't introduced team orders until we felt that the one that was behind was really out of the running, and I would imagine we'll stick to the same policy again this year.
Just finally, looking at your face, Adrian, it's been a tough old weekend for you. You look pretty tired, but a triumphant one at the end of it.
Yeah, no, it's all been worth it. It's been a difficult weekend. As I say, we probably didn't do as well in qualifying as we really should have done, but the drivers did a great job in the race.
Absolutely, we appreciate you joining us, Adrian. Thank you very much indeed. And we're now going to go straight from the paddock down there, straight across to Murray Walker's abode in Hampshire. Hi, Murray.
Hello, Jim.
First question, did you commentate throughout the race to your television?
No, I didn't. Do you know, this is the first time I've ever watched a race at home like everybody else does. And I must say, you've all done an absolutely cracking job. And there are 2 men in the race for me. One is David Coulthard, of course, and the other is James Allen, because I remember my first commentary and how nervous I was. And I think he did an absolutely superlative job.
But even so, Murray, we'll be welcoming you back when we go to Austria in a couple of weeks' time. What are your feelings, though, about what David Coulthard has done here with a view to the championship?
Oh, it's sensational, Jim, because this is the first time David's won more than twice in one season. He's now just 12 points behind Michael Schumacher. He's really put Mika Häkkinen down now, not just once, but several times. And all this stuff about no more Mr. Nice Guy, David remains a very, very nice guy that he's always been, but he's now got this hard, determined edge, and it's really showing. I thought he drove an absolutely superlative race, and I can hardly wait to get back to Austria, and I can hardly wait for the rest of the season. It's going to have us all on the edges of our seats.
Absolutely. Just finally, Murray, there might be 1 or 2 people out there who don't know that you damaged your hip last weekend. You always were an old hippie, weren't you? But you're going to be in shape and ready to resume in a couple of weeks, yeah?
Oh, absolutely, Jim. The hip is back. I'm walking well, no pain, no discomfort, and I will be there.
Good, Murray. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. See you in a couple of weeks' time. OK, when you rejoin us, we're going to look at some of the main points of the race with Tony Jardine, and we will also be having a word with Michael Schumacher. See you shortly. David Coulthard has won here at Manicure, despite Tony Jardine getting a poor start. Rubens Barrichello getting ahead of him on the start line, and then it was his job to fight back the Scot and get past the Brazilian.
Yeah, he did. But I mean, Barrichello has done a very, very good job here as well. But you know, this was Coulthard been blocked out. He looks down the inside there of Rubens Barrichello. He's got to get past him. He's got to get up and have a go at Michael Schumacher. Otherwise, it's all over for him. But that sheer thrust of the power going down there as he goes up towards the Nürburgring chicane, absolutely superb. Almost a rerun of British Grand Prix when those two were together, and of course they challenged each other in British Formula 3 a few years ago.
Then it was Coulthard against Michael Schumacher. He's made an apology for the gestures that he made. My feeling is it might well cost him a bit of a fine as well, but it just shows you wouldn't do that sort of thing if you're stuck in a traffic jam, by the way. There's a bit of road rage there, but it just shows the mood he's in, no matter who it is.
And that is because of Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher has been sniffing at him, saying, you know, you're not really my championship contender. It's got to be Häkkinen. I'm not really going to take you seriously. But if you just look at this, he's had to go, you know, he can't get round. He's had been forced round the outside. Out comes there. He's obviously checking which way the wind is blowing. They're sticking his finger up into the air. But, I mean, that is a big build-up of a lot of pressure, and that's the man he needs to be. That is the target, Michael Schumacher, who said he's not good enough.
Absolutely. For me now, one of the real memorable moments of the season. Coulthard really doing a number on Schumacher.
Yeah, and this again, I didn't think it was on for a moment, and then he did what he did in Malaysia last year, and he went down the inside, but the wheels were almost interlocking. There was a touch of the side pods. There was just the right control of aggressiveness in there. And if you've got the adrenaline going like you have, it's not red mist at all, it's control. You're on it. Coulthard's been on it for quite a few races now, and he's very, very determined. That is so important for the second half of this season in the championship fight, because he feels he's done it. He can get past Michael Schumacher, and he's going to do it again.
And now, Tony, the end of Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen nipping through to make it the McLaren 1-2.
Yeah, and that's their first 1-2 since Spain this year. And you're talking about drivers who are going to be together, Häkkinen and Coulthard together for a 6th straight year. I mean, this is something like 23 Grand Prix wins together, this pairing. It's great. And you know, Schumacher did that in the warm-up this morning. He got slightly out of shape going into Adelaide, but that was him going through there, and just an impending engine problem for Michael Schumacher. And as Schumacher said, that's all it takes. One little failure, and the championship is open up again.
All right, then, let's hear what Michael Schumacher has to say about it all. He's talking to our pit lane reporter, Kevin Piper.
Michael, second mechanical breakdown in 3 races. Does it question the reliability?
Obviously.
And as for the championship now, it's closer than ever. Not a good afternoon for you.
Yeah, but you know, a season is long, and I always said this before, so now we have the proof, unfortunately, for that, and still a long way to go. I'm pretty sure we fairly quickly fix these kind of problems we see today, and we will have good races again after that.
Jack, well done for today. Pleased with your points?
Well, I'm very happy. The car was pretty good. It's been good all weekend, qualifying, and then the start went well as usual, and at least we were a little bit quicker in the race this time. There's only Ralph that was quicker, but it was easy to keep him behind. Then he had an engine problem. Too bad, because it was fun with him behind there.
What is the secret of your starts? Because that's not the first blinding start you've made this season.
I don't know. Just they started working well this year, and just keep doing the same thing. This one actually was a pretty good one.
Well done.
Thanks.
A good one for Jacques Villeneuve and the British-American racing team. Brief up some from you, Tony.
Olivier Panis, the number 3 driver, was in here early on, and as he went out, whispered in our ear, he said, there's going to be a big fight today. Those cars are really right, and now we've got a big fight, hopefully, for the rest of the season. That's brilliant.
Absolutely. A lot of sport still to come your way on ITV. Of course, the final of Euro 2000, of course. And tonight, highlights 11:45. The show repeated tomorrow, as always, 7 o'clock on ITV2. Okay, in a couple of weeks' time, there's a Murray and Martin F1 special on the Friday night from Austria. Check your local listings for the exact times and the full service from the A1 Ring, qualifying live on the Saturday from 11:30. The race 12:15 on the Sunday. Highlights at 11:45 Sunday night. David Coulthard's done a number on Michael Schumacher, his first win in France, and he's kept the championship very much alive in the process. From us all in France. Bye-bye.
To you then, a lot of pit stops.
Yeah, we have a problem with the rig. Couldn't get the fuel in. Clutch actually is okay, but we have another little issue with the engine we need to sort out now. But we have a lot of work to do in lots of different areas, as you see. You know, we can qualify well. We just can't get it all together. In the race, I got run quick once it was free, but you end up getting stuck behind a load of slow cars, and they dictate your pace. You know, we're too slow on the straights to overtake anyone.
It was quite interesting until after the second pit stops I got stuck behind Frentzen, which was impossible to overtake. I mean, I was able to get past a couple at the end of the back straight into the hairpin. For Frentzen, it was just impossible to overtake. But no, it was a good race. I enjoyed it. I just wish I could have been able to move up a bit more, because I came out after the first pit stop just behind Ralph, or alongside Ralph, so made it pretty interesting, I think.
A hard race or not?
Yes, unfortunately I did a mistake in the beginning when I went into Jean. I was quicker than him, but anyway, it was a mistake. afterwards it was a pretty tough race. Yeah.
Pretty tough. Around us, a lot of overtaken. Is that the character of the circuit more than anything?
I mean, 2 years ago there was not a lot of overtaking here. It's a bit surprising, but maybe it's better than some other circuits. Yeah.
I would say congratulations on third place, but maybe a little bit disappointing if you look after the first couple of laps.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we had I was having a very good race to begin with. Then I dropped back a little bit to conserve the tires, but I had the pace of Michael, if not better. But it was just a question of keeping Coulthard behind because he had a tremendous straight line speed, and then I had problems with the braking. So I mean, he got by me on traction just because overcooked basically the rear tires. Then, I had problems on the pit stop, but I catch the group again. Then I had the problems on the pit stop again. So it was a bit of a sad race on that side. In terms of running and pace itself, I think I was okay.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good move.
Yeah, no, it was car was good in the brakes, and once again, Pat and Paul, my two engineers, gave me a good car. So although it was difficult initially through turn 3, once we made some adjustments later in the race, it was very good, and that made it easier to use my braking advantage.
This basically was the break you needed with Michael not scoring at all, isn't it?
Excuse me?
Well, basically, to sort of the deficit in points, with Michael not scoring, this is what you wanted.
Oh, this is a perfect result. It really is, and for the team to get a 1-2, all the hard work they've done this weekend, you've heard it all before, but seriously, the guys have worked incredible amount. They've changed the car so many times, and it's great, and they deserve it.
Goed, dat maakt de...
Since McLaren have won here in France, and now they get the perfect result. A 1-2 from world champion Mika Häkkinen and the teammate who's pushing to succeed him, David Coulthard.
David, in many ways a frustrating weekend, but it certainly came good for you in the end.
Yep, I think it was a very tiring weekend because of all these little problems. You of course take a little bit out of you, but nonetheless managed to keep it all together. And Pat and Paul, again, my two race engineers, give me a good car. The mechanics, the hours they work this weekend is incredible, and it's all credit to them that the car ran reliably. And it's a great day for McLaren to get the 1-2, especially with Michael having the problem.
It couldn't have gone any better. I mean, I think the important thing is David overtook Michael fair and square. Good overtaking manoeuvre. Mikas was a little easier, but I mean, he was still pushing on him, and our strategy was right. Mechanics did a great job in the pits, and all in all, a good ending.
I respect Michael's performances immensely. You know, he's a great driver and a benchmark in Formula One, but I just want to make the point that when I was on the outside of him, I felt that he took a line which was driving me off the circuit. I don't believe that was his normal line. Now, is that sporting or not? I know there'll be diehards who say, shut up and just drive the car, and there'll be those who might agree with me and say, look, that's not sporting. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I won the race, and I'm delighted.
I can be only pleased with the second place today, you know.
You really were in a dominating position, weren't you? The McLarens were going much better than the Ferraris today.
Yeah, we can say that, definitely. You know, we were performing extremely fast, and we can be happy about that. We just have to keep focused. A long way to go.
Now, what about the Drivers' Championship? Is there any chance that you might help David now?
8 races to go. Hey, come on.
Not a good afternoon for you.
Yeah, but you know, a season is long, and I always said this before, so now we have the proof, unfortunately, for that, and still a long way to go. I'm pretty sure we fairly quickly fix these kind of problems we see today, and we will have good races again after that.
We didn't have a better car than the McLaren today, so we have to work better for the next time. I didn't have two good pit stops either. I had two bad pit stops today, so that put me back a little bit. So basically it was okay because I had a good start, but then the pace I was running wasn't enough to keep David behind. Then I catch the group again, but it was kind of the race was going well until my second pit stop when I dropped back.
Well, I'm very happy. The car was pretty good. It's been good all weekend qualifying, and then the start went well as usual, and at least we were a little bit quicker in the race this time. There's only Ralph that was quicker, but it was easy to keep him behind. Then he had an engine problem. Too bad, because it was fun with him behind there.
I made a terrible start, dropped back a position, and I was able to get past at the hairpin a couple of people. But Frentzen was impossible to overtake. I mean, he probably made quite good racing, but I think Ralph had the same problem trying to pass Frentzen. But I think me and Ralph made it quite interesting, coming out the pits together alongside each other. So it's been a good weekend. Just wish we could have got some points.
And so David Coulthard taking 10 points out of Schumacher's lead. Hakkinen is 6 behind his teammate. Barrichello half a dozen away in 4th. No improvement for Fisichella. Ralf Schumacher collecting a couple more. And Villeneuve's 3 points, moving him above Frentzen and ahead of Trulli. In the constructors, Ferrari's lead slashed to 6 points by those rampant McLarens. Williams closing up on the non-scoring Benetton, and Villeneuve has taken BAR to within a couple of points of Jordan. Okay, Tony Jardine. David Coulthard on the front row for the first time ever in France, but he certainly did not get the start he wanted.
No, he didn't, and this was very, very worrying, because we thought, well, he's lost it already. All desperately hoping for that great start from David Coulthard after his brave efforts in practice, all his problems. Look at Michael Schumacher going right across his bows there, and because of that, Rubens Barrichello even gets ahead of him as well. So David Coulthard comes through the first bend in 3rd place. Oh no, this is not what we want. Rubens is going to allow Michael to just go straight away. And he's done it before Schumacher. He did it at San Marino. He got severely criticised for cutting across the field at the start.
So there it was, Rubens Barrichello riding shotgun for Michael Schumacher, and absolutely imperative for Coulthard to get past him, and quickly.
Yeah, but this was great manoeuvre, because he was looking strong and he was closing in. Could he do it? Adelaide, one of the best passing places. He looked down the inside, it was blocked by Rubens Barrichello. He let Rubens come out wide. He took a late apex, went inside and powered his way bravely through, getting up to 170, 180 miles per hour and into that vital 2nd place. And then he closed mercilessly down on Michael Schumacher.
And he pressured Michael Schumacher. He tried and tried to get past him. There was a gesture that I know he already regrets, but it just showed his intent.
Yeah, it did, but how many times has he been thwarted by Michael Schumacher in the past? You think about when Schumacher put him up into the air in 1998 in Argentina. All these things are going through his mind. He's getting a little bit Italian here, isn't he? Because look, the hand comes out of the cockpit. And there he is, there's the gesture. Look, get out. He's being forced wide, of course, by Michael Schumacher as well. He won't be proud of that, and it could bring the sport into disrepute. But then, look at this controlled aggression. I'm not having that. Just dives down the inside and powers his way through. Touching of the wheels, a little bit of bodywork. The rear wheels were almost interlocked there, and that shows how David Coulthard has been on it. That is superb. That'll put a lot of gremlins behind him, that getting past Schumacher, fair and square.
We must pat the whole McLaren team on the back, because they've had some very, very difficult times this weekend, and quite a few of them looked absolutely exhausted at the end of it, but they produced the perfect pit stop, and after that we knew that Coulthard was going to win here.
David Coulthard had got ahead, and he stayed out for 3 extra laps. Strategy absolutely right, and he came in, and this was a critical stop, and they did all this in 7.5 seconds. Great work by all of them, as you say. He gets out. Now this is the sight, and this is the dangerous point, because coming out of the pit lane there, it's very fast the exit, and you can see they sweep across the first corner. There's Schumacher just coming through now, 2nd place. Wonderful feeling from McLaren, wonderful for Hakkinen and Coulthard together.
It was 7.5, that clock stopping a little bit late there, but then bye-bye Michael Schumacher with that blown engine.
Yeah, but not you know, David Coulthard had already put the manoeuvre on him. He'd already got legitimately into the first place. Now, in the warm-up this morning, Michael Schumacher going to Adelaide here had put a wheel on the grass and got sideways. Martin had said maybe the downshift was working a little bit too early, but maybe oil was already coming out and onto those tyres there as Hakkinen went past. But very sensibly, Michael Schumacher pulls off out of the way and onto the grass so as not to lay this oil all over the track. But he said, look, it only takes one little failure. The championship is wide open again. That's why I refuse to talk about the championship. And here it is, just 12 points in it. It's brilliant.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. And so here's your complete rundown of the 50th French Grand Prix. Coulthard the winner and with the fastest lap. Hakkinen second, same as last year, when Rubens Barrichello was also third. A fine effort from Villeneuve. Ralf Schumacher back in the points for Williams. Trulli in sixth, just like Canada. Teammate Frentzen right behind him. Button eighth in the second Williams. Fisichella finishing once again. Top 10 for Salo, Sauber. Then teammate Deniz, under fire Heidfeld 12th for the home Prost team. Irvine's Jaguar way down there in 13th, ahead of Alesi, the last official finisher, Gené's Minardi. Michael Schumacher's engine blew. De La Rosa's gearbox, that failed. Wirtz and Mazzacane both spun out. Verstappen and Herbert both had gearbox trouble. And Ricardo Zonta, he crashed out on lap 16. Our next port of call is the Austrian Grand Prix, and watch out for a special Murray and Martin show on the Friday night. Check your local listings for the exact times. Qualifying, we are live from 11:30 on Saturday morning. The race, our build-up starting at 12:15 on the Sunday. Highlights at 11:45. Well, David Coulthard's first victory here in France comes on the back of a very tough weekend for the McLaren team. There is still ground to make up. But when it comes to overtaking the best in the business, Coulthard has what it takes. Good night.
More sport coming up next in The Big Match.
If you would like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by livesport365.com is www.itv-f1.com.
Jos Verstappen, an early shower for you today. What's the problem?
The car didn't change the gears anymore, so that's why I had to stop.
Did it happen very quickly, or had you had problems before?
I didn't have any warning before, or that the gear changes were going down. It just suddenly happened, and yeah, that was it.
Okay, bad luck, Jos, thanks.
Okay.
Alex Wirtz, an early bath for you. What happened?
Well, I tried to outbrake Alesi because he was really slow holding me up, but I braked a bit too late, so I went straight in the gravel. My car was really terrible to drive, so nothing lost.
Did Alesi brake test you?
Sometimes a bit, but it's normal racing, so everything was fair. But he was really slow, so I tried to overtake him, but didn't work. My car was very low grip level.
Okay, bad luck, Alex. Thanks for talking to us.
Hello, that's it, works, I can hear it. Well, it looks as if we had another gearbox problem. I was having a lot of problems early on that when I came off the throttle I had no drive, and then when I went back onto the throttle I had drive again. Then I lost first and second gear, which was obviously a little bit too difficult, and then I lost sixth and fifth after the pit stop. But I tried to come in early. We tried to do a reset very early on with the gearbox, which was the first pit stop, so I came in because I didn't have first and second. Tried that, but that didn't work either. Then I lost all gears completely. Difficult, I have to say. there was a lot of sliding around, and we were. But I think both struggled because Eddie obviously got a very bad start, but then even his pace wasn't particularly good either. So we've got a lot of work to do. Well, again, it's something that yes, he had a bad start, but his pace didn't look too good, and we've got to improve that. We've got to look ahead and get some pieces on the car that are going to make a big difference, because as everybody knows, Formula One is a very, very difficult sport. Yeah, thank you.
Claudio, Mika went past Michael as well. Is there a problem with Michael's car?
I don't know why we don't have information in the radio. Michael don't speak in the radio. After the pit stop, he lost a little bit timing, but we're
just hearing he just went out of the race.
I don't know. After the pit stop, clear, Rubens stay behind the two McLaren, and then we don't know the problem. The problem now.
Now it's probably the engine. Claudio muss wieder in die Box, aber wir sehen, das ist wirklich ganz brenzlig hier. Wir halten euch.
Well, I think we worked for it. The strategy was right, and I think David overtook Michael fairly and squarely in the early part of the race, so I don't think anyone should think that it was a race that was gifted. You know, we knew we had a very quick race car, and we had to use pit strategy to get the lead, and David made it much easier, of course, because performance was outstanding too.
David drove a superb race, and it was outstanding for the fans.
Absolutely. It's a good race for everybody.
Thank you very much, Ron.
I don't know, I'm afraid.
Michael said he only felt it a lap before he stopped, but he was a bit going slower before that, after the second pit stop already. What was there wrong?
Well, I think he was just trying to look after his tyres, because he guessed that Mika would come at him towards the end of the race, so he was trying to preserve his tyres as much as he could. But we didn't have any knowledge of any problem with the car until it stopped.
Good race for Rubens, however. Does that please you at least of the day?
Yeah, we had a little problem in the pit stop, unfortunately, or else he may have come out in front of Mika. That was our hope, and it's not normal for us, but we had a little problem with the right front. It slowed us up, and there's very little Rubens could do after that, but he drove very well.
Thank you very much, Ross.
Use the mirror in the lane.
C'era un clima alla caduta del muro di Berlino questa settimana al Mugello, dove la McLaren ha scoperto per la prima volta uno dei circuiti più belli al mondo. Ospite della Ferrari sul suo tracciato di prova privato, in un'atmosfera di segretezza quasi grottesca per giornalisti e televisioni confinati in sala stampa, il team grigio-argento ha potuto verificare che l'operazione recupero nel mondiale, ora lanciatissima grazie alla doppietta Coulthard-Hakkinen nella Magny-Cours, non è solo figlia dei recenti problemi di affidabilità delle rosse.
Secondo me quest'anno McLaren test.
Un paio di motori KO sulla McLaren, uno dei quali sulla monoposto di Pagny ha anche sbruciacchiato le fiancate della monoposto. Qualche testacoda innocuo per le Ferrari e soprattutto tanto caldo, al punto da mettere in crisi i pneumatici della Bridgestone. Questo è il menù dei 4 giorni di test al Mugello, ultimo vero test prima del Gran Premio d'Austria, in programma fra una settimana. Ecco allora che i test toscani hanno dimostrato senza problemi che le McLaren non sono più inferiori alle rosse, cosa che invece era estremamente chiara fino a un mese e mezzo fa. Ma di questo grande recupero, che regala ora una seconda parte di campionato mondiale completamente aperta, nessuno in McLaren pare sorprendersi, iniziando proprio da David Coulthard.
La situazione attuale mi sta bene. Non mi interessa più di tanto capire chi fra noi e la Ferrari è più competitivo in gara e un po' meno in qualifica, o viceversa. Sia noi sia la Ferrari siamo molto vicini al limite tecnico concesso dai regolamenti. Magny-Cours, via il fumo dalla pubblicità, ma non dagli scarichi della Ferrari.
Herr Dennis, cosa ha pensato nel vedere fumare la vettura di Schumi?
Well, Mr. Hout, ho pensato che il fumo passivo non fa poi così male, non a tutti comunque.